Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to all the listeners of the Good Anime Palette Podcast. We are on episode 64. Back at it again in the midst of a hot summer, or it might be cold if you're down under. Still Jason, still Will. I just got back from a long-ass trip in the great white north of Toronto over in Canada, and I've only just managed to get my jet lag fixed up, so I'm managing to get some good sleep. I think Jason's been sleeping quite well recently, right? You've been taking a nice little break from all the anime and the manga.
So, when you were going on your vacation back home to the Great White North, to the Maple Leaf country, I was like, yo, guess what, guys? Guess what, listeners? Guess what, Will? I'm going to catch up on all these on-hold stuff. I'm going to be update to seasonals. I'm going to do all this stuff. And I instead chose to not do any of that because I just decided to take a break. And it was great to take kind of a break. Sometimes, you don't want to get burnt out. We had that issue. Not everyone does, obviously, but Will and I encountered like fatigue at the very least, right? And I think that at the end of the day, that break was necessary just to like detox, but now I'm fully back at it, ready to rumble for our gotta watch them all.
Yep. So before we get into that, we do have one bit of news. Some news will be going over throughout the actual discussion for this episode, since some news articles are related to our topic of discussion. But the one that we wanted to actually highlight is pretty significant. If you've been around in the anime sphere, you might know of a little popular manga and anime series called Chainsaw Man. It's been tearing up the scenes, literally, in terms of how popular and how hyped the series has been. And before even going into the anime, you might have already been reading the manga since it was all free on Jump Plus or Manga Plus. The mastermind behind the series, though, on the other hand, whilst he has been working really, really hard in terms of pushing out his material, don't forget he also worked on Fire Punch. He also worked on a few shorts as well. I think this is like Goodbye Aria, Look Back, as well as Just Listen to the Song, the most recent one. One thing that both Jason and I did not notice, though, was that whilst Goodbye Aria and Look Back were all written and drawn by the mangaka, Fujimoto-san, Just Listen to the Song was not. Whilst he did write the story for the short, he did not do the artwork for it. And it seems that this may be something that's going to happen a bit more on a permanent basis than rather temporary. So in a Kotaku article recently, it has been announced that, well, not announced, but maybe speculated that the Chainsaw Man creator may stop drawing manga and just focus on story writing. So this is something that we've seen already in terms of another mangaka recently, Akasaka of Oshinoko and Love is War fame. He has also taken a step back from the artwork side and more focusing on the story writing side. It seems that this may begin like a little trend amongst mangakas. I don't know. I mean, what's your take on it in terms of, I guess, the impact on Fujimoto's work and potentially the impact on the mangaka scene going forward?
So one of the things that I think that I should either amend or kind of bring up is the success or in some ways lack thereof of Chainsaw Man. So the CEO of MAPPA had kind of made a statement that the financial performance of Chainsaw Man was not up to expectations, although he said, and I quote, the anime has returned its entire investment, although we wish it will perform better for Blu-ray and DVD. Now, does that mean that it wasn't a financial success? It could also just be that the budget is super high, right?
Yeah. And I think also maybe,
which makes sense.
Or also expectations were set
way high. I mean, and so it's not fair to say that it wasn't a success, but nonetheless, it was definitely in the zeitgeist during that period of time. And I just think that the reason why I mentioned that is not only to highlight that Chainsaw Man may not necessarily be like the next JJK or whatever. It also highlights the amount of stress and pressure that a lot of anime and manga creators have to go through. I mean, it's kind of like one of the cornerstones of like a really bad trope of the industry that people get overworked, underpaid, and are exhausted and overworked to death.
I mean, like, remember Fujimoto after he finished like chapter 98 of the original Chainsaw Man, he was like, I'm going to take a break and I'm going to move away from doing Chainsaw Man stuff before I get back into doing the next part. And during that like 6 to 8 months, he then like threw out back to back to back like manga shorts of Goodbye Eri, Look Back. Look Back first. Look Back came first, then Goodbye Eri, and then just listen to the song.
Yeah, and Just Listen to Your Song is only like one chapter's worth, right? It was like 20-something pages, whereas the others...
They were all really good.
They're all like super good for like its length.
But that's like basically like that was his definition of a break. Even when he was like not doing Chainsaw Man stuff, he was still drawing and writing manga, at least for like the first 2 shorts, except for Listen to the Song, which was only just like written by him, not drawn by him.
I do think that a lot of creators kind of quote unquote volunteering to take a hiatus at a very distinct point. I mean, for example, Ancient Magus' Bride, the mangaka, took a hiatus after the school arc in the manga finished and was just like, yeah, I'm just going to take a break. Land of the Illustrious, same thing. I think the Land of the Illustrious mangaka, she returned and produced some chapters already. So it is not the same thing as when we keep hearing hiatus nowadays, although there's a good amount of it where it's like, health concerns. Whereas now it's like, before it gets to that level of severity, they're like, hey, maybe we should look more forward into the future. And I think Fujimoto Sensei's idea of, hey, maybe I should write more than I draw because I also want to be involved, but I don't want to go ape shit over like losing my own sanity and health.
Yeah. The other thing he also mentioned as well in that particular interview for Kotaku was that he didn't want to be constrained by his drawing. I think in his words, and of course I'm paraphrasing here, he mentioned that whilst he's writing, it's easier for him to be able to create a story, create a background, set the scene. But when it comes to drawing, you've pretty much already put like pen on paper how something is going to play out, how something is going to look, how characters are going to develop. So he maybe wanted to sort of get back a little bit more creative freedom in a sense. It's a bit weird when you hear that, where it's like, isn't like art in itself also creative freedom? I think for him, though, it just means that like if he's already going to be drawing something, he's already setting in stone how something is going to appear, how something is going to play out. And he didn't want to have that hammering him. He also just felt that, hey, look, like I want to be able to create beautiful stories. He mentioned a lot of like Ghibli movies. He talked about Makoto Shinkai as well. So like, some very acclaimed directors and studios in terms of creating magnificent worlds, and that's something that he wants to fully develop as well within his writing.
Yeah, and going off of that, when he says that he is writing, and this is now my own speculation, is writing as a mangaka, as a writer, to me, I mean, it could be as simple as here are the lines and the general story, but it can also be very involved in terms of, as Will alluded to, the panel design or getting final approval or, all of these things. So it's really hard sometimes to determine the length of which of involvement a mangaka writer is. And maybe that's because I don't have a lot of personal insight into it, but it could be quite intricate as well, just not the quote-unquote back-breaking drawing, meeting deadlines in the sense of, hey, I have to draw all this as well.
Yeah, and I think like you talk about the kinds of shonen action series that come out, right? Like, I mean, the work that Fujimoto was most well known for now, especially given the fact that Chainsaw Man came out back in fall 2022. It's Chainsaw Man. That is like his bread and butter, the thing that put him on the scene for anime and manga fans. And when you think about like shonen action, most of the memorable ones usually come with great writing. Great character backstories, like great plot development.
Or choreography as well, right?
Choreography, in a sense, yes. But it's also like, when you think about season 1 of Demon Slayer, everybody talks about that one specific episode, but no one really talks about anything else from that? Okay, maybe there's like talks about how Nezuko is really cute and really sweet and all that. People like to see what's Electric Boy's name again?
Zenitsu.
Yeah, Zenitsu is a little thing with his sleeping, but again, it was
Like
also
the reveal of it.
yeah,
Yeah,
but it's also like that reveal. But it's if we talk about, for example, like, and I hate to bring up Naruto again, but there were like some really well written arcs, especially when it came to the Akatsuki, when it came to like the stories between like Sasuke and his brother and all that. Those were very well written stories. You don't necessarily remember a lot of like super memorable visual aspects. There are a lot. But I think that's maybe something that we want to try and, I mean, like Fujimoto-san wants to more focus on, to be able to set the scene rather than actually seeing the scene play out.
Right. So the other thing that I also want to mention about Fujimoto Sensei is his pedigree of his assistants. So he has talked about in this interview, and again, paraphrasing it, but it's in the interview where the commercial success of Chainsaw Man nonetheless gave him a lot of funds to essentially give it to the assistants. And also there is pedigree with at least Fujimoto Sensei with Hell's Paradise, because Yuji Kaku, who is exactly the creator of Hell's Paradise, doing great right now, is a former assistant of Fujimoto Sensei. And in my opinion, when you kind of are giving the reins to a certain degree, but not all of it, to kind of an aspiring assistant who kind of wants to make his or her own manga property, like how else are you going to get your foot in the door when the creator is doing everything or is like final approval? I'm not saying that.
Yeah, we don't know the behind the scenes.
Right. But I'm saying that if you get the reins off and give sort of someone creative freedom, as you said, Will, right? You know, in terms of designing the art style. So maybe the choreography is set in stone or what happens is set in stone. But how you draw it, or maybe the final approval is still there, but there is still freedom for you to explore as a newcomer, as an assistant, such that maybe then you can branch out. And it clearly has worked out for Kaku-sensei.
I mean, we kind of saw that play out in like a couple episodes of Bakuman, right? Like where
where great show.
Yeah. Well, we still need to finish season 3, but we'll get round to it.
Yeah,
maybe we'll get around to it in like 30, 25.
We'll just put it in the closet and then just.
We'll cryogenically freeze ourselves, and then when it's like 1,000 years later, then we'll be like, maybe it's time to finish off Bakuman.
And then we're the only two dudes, right?
And then what? We start.
The world has ended.
We start making
a harem
manga ourselves.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
No. It's definitely like really cool to see that a creator such as Fujimoto-san like doesn't stand in the way of a talented assistant, where he's like, he clearly recognizes that there's some talent. Again, we don't know how it actually played out in the background, but the fact that the guy's gone out and actually made his own works, that's pretty sweet. And I think that's something that we want to see more of in the anime sphere, in the manga sphere, right? It's like, look, Fujimoto-san could have had every right himself to basically lock down his assistant on a dead-end contract and get him to just basically write everything proprietary of Chainsaw Man or whatever else.
Yeah, or be like so controlling that basically you are just a pair of hands.
Yeah. Or maybe, like, I don't know, there's if these things exist within, like, manga creation, but throw in a non-compete, right? Like, basically, it's like, you're not allowed to work on any other person's work after mine for, like, 6 months, 12 months, or whatever. That's literally like a death sentence for a creator in a sense, because that means you have no outlet for work, and you're basically just resigned to, meeting deadlines for a creator, whilst you have your own stockpile of works that you want to release, just collecting dust. So what do we take from this? Now, one thing that I think you opened with was talking about how some execs were a little bit disappointed in terms of the performance. Whilst it might not be a bust, it's definitely done really well. Maybe expectations were set really high, but it's also good to remember the time in which it released, which is fall 2022. Now, fall and spring, usually during the anime cycles, are the hottest sort of like release dates for anime. That season they had Bleach, like the first part of Thousand Year Blood War. They had To Eternity Season 2. They had Golden Kamui. They also had Mob Psycho 3. I think they also had they had Bocchi of the Rock. A lot of stuff came out that season. So it's always going to be like hard to be the one that stands out on top. I mean, clearly Bleach did, but Bleach also had a lot of nostalgia and hype that was driving that train. So I'm not a business exec. I'm not on the board. I'm not here to make money off of Chainsaw Man. But I think that like it's fair for them to say maybe they wanted to see more because of the fact that the hype train for Chainsaw Man had been brewing for so long. Like even before the anime came out and was even announced, it was always on the top of like that survey of top 100 manga series that definitely need an adaptation. Right? It was always at the top. If not at the top, then the top 5.
Yeah, and as like an exec that may not necessarily be on the ground floor and the pulse, right? If I just gave you the bullet points, right? It's like, yo, you like that Chainsaw Man manga that everyone keeps talking about that are on these lists? I don't know what those are, but they're on lists. That seems like it's in demand. Oh, wait, what if we grab, Jujutsu Kaisen, right? Maybe you don't know what that is, but you heard that name before. Oh, yeah, it's like by Mappa, right? Oh, yeah, okay. They do good work, makes a shit ton of money. They do everything. That sounds like a recipe like made for success.
Yeah, why don't we go and get the same studio that did that did JJK, the same studio that's doing Attack on Titan right now.
Oh, they're doing Hell's Paradise, so the former assistant, the creator, so there's like lineage there, right? So I think it's very convincing on paper to someone that like, oh, you throw money at it and it would barf out like twice 3 times as much,
right? Like you basically keep milking it until it doesn't work anymore. And I think for them, this is probably them thinking that it's not working anymore, which is a bit harsh. I wouldn't say like for them it is a bust. I don't even.
No, they said they firmly said that it's made it their entire investment back. But it is a bit. If you read in between the lines, oh, we hope for better like DVD, Blu-ray sales. That's kind of like indirectly saying like, well, it didn't do too great.
But it's tough again, right? I think consumer spending has dropped massively over the course of the last 3 years. Even though we have been getting out of the COVID economy and we're getting back to how things were before COVID.
I mean,
it's still not the same.
I mean, we just got some of the COVID delays resuming now with like Nier, for example.
Like think about when we went to go and watch JJK Zero and how empty that cinema was. And by empty, I mean the fact that there were still a lot of empty seats. We weren't watching at like a red eye time.
Do you remember when we watched Yuru Camp movie?
That was like less than half capacity.
Definitely, but it was still like
you remember when because we only bought the tickets maybe a couple days out because that's how like you buy tickets online in Hong Kong. You only get to see like
3 days in advance.
Yeah, 4 days, something like that. But when you saw the seat map, it was like everything was centered in the middle and there was nothing on the sides. And I think that's reflective of basically how people go about their spending, and I wouldn't see it that different with Blu-ray and DVD sales.
But offhand, though, what I will say is that at least among my friend group, and obviously some of it is Will's friends group as well, no one really talks about Chainsaw Man that much. I think a lot of people talk about, obviously, the current lineup, but people are still talking about Vinland Saga, for example. But no one JJK obviously because it's airing now.
Even though Demon Slayer is over, people still talk about it. And I think it's just because of the fact that those series have one thing that JJK doesn't have. I mean, that Chainsaw Man doesn't have right now, which is the fact that they have a lot more source material to adapt. Right, a lot more mangas that they can sell as well. Yes, they are going to be releasing more stuff for Chainsaw Man Part 2 because of the fact that it's still running right now on Manga Plus and Jump Plus, but the fact that you already have like well over 200 chapters of JJK, Demon Slayer ended like in the low to mid 200 chapters. Like it's a no-brainer that if you've got more source material, it's easier to pump up sales because you remember a time when it was like Demon Slayer was like breaking records. The top 10 on Oricon in terms of like manga sales, 9 of them were Demon Slayer. The only one that wasn't was One Piece.
Yeah, we just kept looking at news stories and was just like, okay, another one gets the book, New York Times bestseller list. My Hero Academia is a lot of times on that list as well. Yep. AOT, when it was still kind of in its like hype season, because now it kind of died off slightly.
It's died off because I think the fact that like it's ended so long ago now, and like Mappa they do need to take their time in terms of adapting the final season. But I remember as well, like 2012 when it first debuted, fuck, that shit was like the greatest thing since sliced bread.
I mean, those first couple of episodes of the anime was insane to me. Like, I will never be able to have that kind of first experience again of watching the first couple of episodes.
Yeah, so I don't think that Fujimoto like himself is like too phased by how the anime has performed, because I think it's already done its job. It's definitely pushed him up on that pedestal of being a top tier mangaka, and that whatever works he comes out with, whether it be fully done in terms of written and drawn by him or just written, I think people would still be able to be like, yeah, no, this is Fujimoto's work. We're going to read this no matter what. I mean, like, look at Akakasaka and how successful Oshinoko is right now.
So here's the thing about Chainsaw Man, and this will be kind of like the last sticking point that I kind of want to leave with, Will, which is, what does this mean for Chainsaw Man the manga? Because when you are saying that you are trying to take a step back, not as an artist, but take a step back not as a writer, you're retaining that, but you are an artist. You're like chilling on that. You know what I'm saying? Like,
I think he's just bored. I personally think, I think for sure, like, physical and mental fatigue do play into it, but I think it's also just the fact that he's maybe just wanting to try something different. I mean, that's why we saw like Goodbye Aria and Look Back.
Yeah, I do think that was kind of his attempt of kind of testing the waters to see if he's like good enough to be able to make independent stories.
And he was well above being just good. Like, I mean, Goodbye Aria was amazing. Look Back was super good.
I mean,
too.
Look Back was very silent, right? I mean, obviously the book doesn't regurgitate
in terms
audio.
in terms of like text. Yeah,
exactly. So it was a lot of the direction, and I think a lot of writing in terms of what it's supposed to be depicted. So with that, maybe that goes into a bit. But I think Chainsaw Man, there won't be a part 3.
Yeah, I'm sure that once it's done, like that's pretty much going to be the end of it. And I think like it's good. I just don't really want to see a shonen a series just run way past its expiration date. I think that okay. One Piece aside.
Sure. Yes, I would argue that technically part 2. Okay, I don't remember, but I don't think it was supposed to exist. Was that true?
No, well, I mean, I thought that at the end of Chainsaw Man, like the original Chainsaw Man, they said there would be a part 2.
Yeah, but
I don't know if it was announced like before that he was like, oh, by the way, like we're for sure doing a part 2. I think maybe it was just like, oh, look how successful Chainsaw Man is. I guess we're gonna do a part 2.
Yeah,
now.
I think that's so. Then I'm gonna have to figure out a good story. I think that's. Like, it wasn't designed from the get-go is what I'm saying. Of course, are you designed to always have a definite end? Not always, but it's good to have something in mind, right? So, who knows?
Yeah, so I think, for all the Chainsaw Man fans, don't worry. There's still going to be a season 2. There's also speculation that there's going to be a final movie for it as well. And then once, the first part of Chainsaw Man's done, look, there's more Chainsaw Man on the manga and Jump Plus platforms. Those will probably be adapted too. But the future of that beyond part 2 of Chainsaw Man, the manga, and potentially the anime, that remains to be unknown. I think it's pretty clear that he's going to, Fujimoto is going to completely finish the adaptation for it in terms of the manga, in both writing and drawing. But beyond that, who knows? I'm excited to see what he's going to do though, because we don't want to just remember Fujimoto as the Chainsaw Man guy. Like, Oda is fine being One Piece guy.
Yeah, Jojo guy, yeah.
Once you have something that works, it works. But I think for him, he's maybe just bored. Maybe he's tired. Maybe he just wants to, try something different.
Do you think Akasaka's extreme success with Oshinoko kind of accelerated his decision to at least talk about it and maybe commit at least more so in his mind than previous? Like, maybe he already had that thought, but seeing another manga creator step back from drawing a relatively, in fact, I would say very successful Kaguya-sama, and then being like, no, I'm just going to write, and everyone being like, well, like, really? And then Oshinoko drops, and he's like, okay, I can kind of do that. Oh, Look Back Aria. Yeah, Goodbye Aria.
Whether or not he had spoken to Akakasaka or like had any sort of like direct contact with him about that.
You don't need to, but maybe. Who knows?
But it would be silly to think that like he doesn't know about the moves that Akakasaka made, and therefore that could have made some sort of decision in his head. You know what? Maybe just doing writing could be a good move not just for the work that I have, but for my own personal health.
I personally like the idea of if you're a good writer, then be a writer. If you're a good artist, then you draw. If you can do both, well, there are going to be plenty of examples of that. And if you're really capable at it, good for you. But
just remember that it's literally 2 times the work.
yeah, and also
and maybe more, right?
if you, for example, have health issues, then your main artist and main writer is gone in one go. It's kind of tough.
Yeah, I mean, look at fucking Hunter x Hunter, right?
Yeah, I mean, how many mangakas the artists have unfortunately passed away? You know, things like Solo Leveling or I think Demon School Academy, and right now the villainous Berserk and villainous. Well, Berserk is like he writes and draws, right?
But then he also is not here anymore. You know.
Yeah, that is true.
So yeah,
but with and what's the last boss villainous to Savior?
Oh yeah.
The manga adaptation, the artist has to take a permanent hiatus, but then you can technically revive it through another artist. So it's possible that you can continue. That's all.
Would you do it? It depends. It really depends, right?
The legacy and everything, yeah, it kind of depends. But anyways, we just thought it was a very interesting story, so we decided to talk at length about it.
It's also just because of the fact that, like, Akakasaka, when he dropped the news, it was like a bombshell. Everyone was just like, what?
I'll be honest, I thought that was a dumb move. Obviously, in retrospect, it's not. And obviously, I don't know anything,
like,
right?
You'd be thinking it's like, okay, your writing is great, but who, like, is going to be able to actually, like, translate that onto a screen, right? Like, or onto, like, a manga.
Right, like panels. Yeah, okay. But hey, who are we to say? We don't know everything.
Do you foresee more people doing this?
Absolutely. When you can split the work and there's more... Like, if I can do a podcast on my own versus having it, you know, with you, dynamic duo, I think that's a big difference. Whether it is splitting the work or whether it is, oh, maybe if I'm in my own head, no one's going to say no to me unless if I have, like, dual personalities, right? Like, to have someone be like, actually, I've been with you since the day one of this journey, and I know you personally as a creator, that's a dumb idea. Or your drawing is messed up here, you know?
Yeah. But on the inverse as well, if you're just doing this thing solo, the only limitation is yourself, right? So therefore, you are able to sort of reconsolidate your resources, your creative freedoms, and really focus on what you truly want to make. Not to say that, like, of course, it makes things easier, but, you know, a couple restraints come off, a few more obstacles show up. It's not always going to be like, oh, this is the path of a writer, this is the path of an artist, this is the path of a mangaka that does both, right? It's not always going to be the same journey for everyone.
I think in terms of, at the end of the day, whether or not you are a solo creator or you are partnered with a writer or an artist and you doing the other like part of it, having options available, you can then have your pros and cons, and also making it feasible. Like, these are examples of it being legitimately financially feasible, right? Because sometimes you can't work with someone. You have to work solo. But here are clear examples of you can choose the one that fits you.
I mean, think about, like, how, I mean, this is like a slight tangent, but there are loads of, you know, live action actors and actresses that, you know, not only act, but also write and direct. And there are a lot of examples of actors and actresses that end up, you know what, I don't want to be on the screen anymore. I'm just going to get out of the limelight and just focus on writing and directing, right? It's the same thing. You might be like, oh, that person just fell off. They don't want to act anymore. Wow, what the fuck? Like, are they just, like, not talented? Do you not have the chops anymore? No, it's just because they just decided they wanted to hone in on a specific passion. And this is probably the case for Fujimoto.
And personally, again, I was going to say last note, but then we keep turning into a discussion, which, by the way, I think is great. When you do the drawing and writing and then you step away from one of them, you technically did the other side, so to speak, the other side of that coin for a period of time. So you know how it feels, right? A writer who just solely writes will not really know how to draw, right? Yeah. So then they won't know certain things that only an artist would know.
It's not like he just suddenly forgot how to draw. Maybe he just lost passion with it, right? But no matter what, at the end of the day, we will always remember Fujimoto as someone who created some of the greatest works of all time. And the fact that, like, he did both sides in terms of the writing and the drawing, I don't think it's a question of whether he's going to be a good writer.
I think it's a good move. All right, so now that we have kind of gone off of that news story, Will, are you ready to dive into our main discussion topic?
Yes, we are continuing our journey of the gotta watch them all. I forgot which number this one is. Is it 7 or 8? It's 8, right? Gotta watch them all 8.
Yes,
Correct.
Ocho.
Yes. So Jason is going to be tackling the 5th iteration of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, which is the Golden Wind arc, and I will be going over a few different things.
Right.
Yeah.
Uh,
You wanted to point something out just now?
yeah, I just want to say that for Golden Wind, we are not covering all of Golden Wind. We are kind of splitting it up at a very distinct point, which I will say is up to episode 28, and there is a reason for that, which we will get into when we get into spoilers. But essentially, this is like the first like segment of Golden Wind, and the other Gotta Watch Them All that would be after this would be the latter half, the finale of Golden Wind, as well as, I guess, a whole part 5 retrospective kind of thing.
Yeah. Rather than going into like Stone Ocean straight away, I think it would be good to maybe just because basically like there was like a pretty like long period between Golden Wind and Stone Ocean in terms of like development hell. Not to mention like before Stone Ocean, everything was just regular syndications. Stone Ocean became like a Netflix thing, so I think it'd be good to maybe just do like a sort of recollection of your journey so far before moving into the quote unquote modern era of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure.
Yeah, and Diamond is Unbreakable. We split it up into 2 parts anyways.
And also threw in Kishibe Rohan as well,
yes.
right? On my side, I'm still on the journey of Sword Art Online. However, this is not part of the main series. Instead, I'll be going over 2 different movies along with a side story. The side story being Gale Online or Sword Art Alternative. What was the other name for it? Something like that. The movies in question are the Ordinal Scale movie along with Progressive, Aria of the Starry Night, right? No, Starless Sky.
Starless Sky,
That's it. Yeah, no, Night is for
Sorry, it is Sword Art Online Alternative : Gale Online.
Okay, so I missed out the online.
Alternative.
Yeah. And I said Sword Art Alternative. I didn't say Sword Art Online. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I see what you mean. Okay.
Yeah. So we should probably go into some usual format. We're going to go over the non-spoiler section, followed by a deep dive into all of the stuff we've watched, which means it's going to be full of spoilers. We'll have timestamps
up to that
ready.
point. Yeah,
we'll have timestamps ready in the show notes as well. So if you ever hear us going into spoilers, we'll give you a little bit of a sound cue, or you can also look in the show notes and let you know what the next section is in terms of like just being free of spoilers for your depending on which section you're listening to.
And just an amendment to that, which is also on the rules, there will be spoilers for all of the previous iterations. So, for example, for Will's Sword Art Online, Sword Art Online Season 2 and Season 1, and for me, all of the previous parts, Part 4, 3, 2, and 1, are technically free game for spoilers. So it doesn't make sense. Why would you watch up to this point? Although Gale Online is kind of in this weird exception, but for the most part, we're going to assume that you know everything previously up to now. So those are not considered spoilers.
Yep. So, Jason, you have now, enjoyed your time in the quiet suburbs of Morio and now have moved out into a global travel again. But this time you're not going to Egypt, right? You're not going to Egypt. You're not going to Europe. You're not going to Europe at all. This time, where are you going?
Italia.
Yeah. Okay, I did say you're not going to Europe. Actually, no, Italy's in Europe. Yeah. But in part 3, they travel all across Europe. This time you are going to Italy. And this is where the scene is set for Golden Wind.
In part 3, then they travel through Asia?
They travel through Europe. Oh, no, Europe was part 2. Yeah, and then they went down to down to Egypt as well. Because they had the Pillar Men there too, and the Nazis showed up. There were a lot of weird things going on in part 2 and part 3.
You might say it's a bizarre adventure, right?
Very much.
So,
but now this is no longer JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. This is Giorno's Fabulous Adventure.
Yeah. Okay. So, Why is that the case, you might say? Isn't it called Jojo? Okay, I think that part is technically a bit of a spoiler, so I'm not going to reveal that.
Yep.
But needless to say that the name of the character is extremely non-spoilery because you can technically infer the spoiler part. It is not Jojo.
Yeah, it's not Jotaro Josuke, so you don't get the Jojo. Instead, it's Giorno Giovanna.
Giovanna, yeah.
Yeah.
GG, you know.
Or Jo.
Or Giorno. Everyone
Yeah.
says Giorno.
Giorno.
So
yeah.
a bit of a preface. This is not a spoiler, but a spoiler for Will and I, especially me. I'm going to butcher a lot of these Italian pronunciations. I'm extremely sorry in advance. Please don't fault me for it. I am trying my best, and I'm not doing a bit. Like, I will try to pronounce it genuinely at the best of my abilities.
Yeah. So maybe like a small little breakdown, little summary of what the hell is Golden Wind or Vento Oreo. I think that's the alternative name for it.
Yeah. So the thing about JoJo Golden Wind, Part 5, which is also Season 4 of the anime, congratulations, it's just as messed up in terms of what is what. It now takes place in Italy, and the theme and kind of what happens is extremely simple and straightforward. Essentially, this is, if you think Italy and you think Italian things, one of the things that you might hear as like kind of a staple or stereotype is like the mob. You know, like Scarface, like Godfather. And very much in the same vein, this is a part about mobsters' rise to fame and fortune, kind of the whole I'm at the bottom of the pyramid and rise to the top type of scenario.
Yeah. This is JoJo meets Al Capone, Scarface, the whole cannoli.
What? Yeah, okay. Look,
They have a character named Cannoli, right? They have Panettone.
I think they also have like gelato. So
Yeah.
So going off of that,
It's very Italian in terms of the names. Bruno Bucciarati, Arancia. They also have not Arancia, which is orange in Italian, and they also have Panettone, Giorno Giovanna.
So correct me if I'm wrong, Will, but there's kind of a motif that every JoJo part kind of utilizes, right? Whether it is the stand names, which here is in full display with music artists, essentially things like there's a very well-known rapper name that shows up.
Yeah.
There is a lot of I don't necessarily think it's necessarily a spoiler, but there is a lot of well-known musicians such that if you hear the name, because in the subtitles, the English subtitles, they clearly don't say the name, just like in Part 4. They alluded to certain names, but then when the Japanese dub, they clearly say it. So you're just like, okay, I know that song or that band or that name. Okay. Your stand is a certain transportation device, and what is a certain art musician's name that is also some. You know what I mean? Like, yeah.
They're definitely a lot less like subtle with it, and this time full blown. Like, no, we're just gonna say these fuckers' names.
Because didn't they get into a lot of trouble?
A lot of trouble,
copyright,
especially when it came to stop motion. Right, that's why that was what was speculated in terms of why it was delayed, just because of the fact that with Netflix they're a lot less forgiving in terms of copyright infringements. So they definitely had to go back to the drawing board and make sure it's like, oh, maybe not call this person Vanilla Ice, maybe call them Chocolate Ice or Ice Vanilla or something like that.
Right.
It just subtle differences so that you know who you're referencing, but you're not directly ripping off their name.
And Giorno is essentially starts out rather quickly as kind of a lackey in this mobster organization, this mega organization structure. And
do you want to say the organization's name?
Passione.
A certain studio, yeah. No, there's not. There's
And
no connection with the studio.
Then they go and animate Murako-chan, and then there's all this stuff happens. Spoiler alert. No, I'm just kidding.
Hey, Higurashi needs to remake, I suppose. Right?
Oh, I was gonna make that joke, but I guess you beat me to it. Okay, so there is obviously twists and turns. There's obviously stand battles and everything in between. That is spoiler filled, which I'll get into. But let me tell you my overall gist.
That's the one thing that's consistent, right? It's still going to be a fucking bizarre adventure.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So just to be clear, I watched the first 28 episodes. Will stopped it at that point because he felt that it was kind of a nice breaking off point, essentially before what would be the equivalent in his mind, and I can clearly see it at the end of episode 28, the Battle in Egypt version.
Yeah.
Now,
where shit goes down.
Yeah. Of course, you can say that, well, shouldn't you base it off of when the OP changes, because that's kind of like the creator's way of saying, oh, it's a new season, new arc, because it's a new opening and ending. You're not necessarily wrong. So, but in this case, I felt that if we were to end it on that note, it would be pretty bad because it was such a big cliffhanger that I felt that, and Will obviously knew the plot details, that like we can't end it there. Yeah. So just so that we're clear, everything up to episode 1 to 28.
Yeah. So straight from episode 1, I think that you have like some consistent characters, but not a whole lot. The one stark difference is how it looks, right? Stylistically, visually. I mean, we are moving away from like the Conan the Barbarian. We're moving away from Rambo, and now moving into Vogue.
So, Will, this is something that I tried to Google or trying to get a gauge of. But in your opinion, before I tell you how I feel about Golden Wind thus far, what is like kind of the general sentiment or like your personal enjoyment factor of Golden Wind in compared to all the previous parts?
This probably sounds spoilerish, but I'm going to say it anyway. As much as I loved Diamond's Unbreakable, Golden Wind is my favorite part.
Okay. And would you say that the general internet or the general weeb or the general JoJo fan would agree with that sentiment? Like
it ranks very high. For sure. And I think it just comes down to like the eclectic mix of characters. Yes, you do have like wacky, bizarre characters throughout all of JoJo. That's going to be consistent. But I think that like it's a different environment. It's a little bit of a twist as well in terms of like why certain characters show up or why we have this particular JoJo compared to the other JoJos, which we'll get into in the spoiler section. And also just I think it was just it's just very like strikingly different in terms of how it looks. I mean, you no longer have like the big like Arnold Schwarzenegger like bodybuilder type of characters. Now you have a lot more slender. You have like
metrosexual, right, kind of look.
Yeah, and it definitely explores that sort of metrosexuality, even homosexuality. It explores
100%,
more flamboyancy, more being in touch with like feminine aspects of your of a male's character.
And part 4 had like some of that, right? It's kind of like the handoff. You can
see it was kind of going in that direction,
right? With Jotaro and Josuke, right? You can clearly see the difference in terms of sensibilities and just the general like aesthetic look of it. And I feel like if that was kind of like the bridge between the Conan JoJo versus the current Vogue JoJo,
like the Versace JoJo,
this is just full on the Versace Vogue JoJo, like straight up.
Yeah.
So,
and that's been like well documented in terms of like all of the works that like you've seen from JoJo. Like it's basically they take inspiration from rock bands, from bodybuilders, from models to fashion and all that. So Araki definitely looked throughout like the pantheon of all sorts of media, and that's where he drew his inspiration for designing the characters and the set pieces for Golden Wind.
I should also preface what I'm about to say by saying that I have been wrong twice with part 3 and part 4, where I had a very negative impression of part 3 and part 4 first half, and almost did a complete 180 in both instances.
Well, I didn't think you disliked the beginning of part 4. I think that you were pretty warm to it, but I think like your level of enjoyment definitely ramped up like once shit came down, especially when you started seeing Kira.
Right. I would say that one, I wouldn't shut up about, which is essentially like the latter half, right? And the first half, I was just kind of like iffy, but still like it's good. Regardless, it's still good. And my opinion of Golden Wind is that it's still good. And it does contain some of the best things that I love about JoJo, bar none, which I'll get into.
However,
I don't like it that much.
okay.
The thing is, what I don't like about it is for example, with mobsters, the thing that you see is a lot of violence, because that's just kind of the way it is with gangsters and mafioso, all that stuff. You're gonna see a lot of, whether it's like, the typical like brass knuckles, a lot of guns, a lot of like bloody affairs, a lot of murders, right?
Yeah.
But within JoJo, that is not necessarily unheard of. In fact, that is almost like a mainstay. However, I felt that the violence and gore in part 5 is way more fucked up. I think there is a certain scene where there are some art pieces that were delivered to a group of people.
Yeah.
And they have to assemble it in a way. I think that was a very clear indication of, oh shit, this is still violent, and in many ways not as violent, but it's kind of like messed up.
Yeah.
And I felt that there was a lot more of this than in any other previous JoJo parts, or at least the tone was one of less comical. Like, this is like real shit kind of scenario. Like, I felt dread rather than I was like, dude, that's fucked up.
It definitely starts reflecting more of like the serious aspects of JoJo, as opposed to the, oh look, there is a stand that makes us so that we're sticking our our PPs to our boom booms, in part 3. You definitely like you definitely stray away from those kinds of elements of JoJo and more into like this is real dark shit.
And unfortunately, in Golden Wind, there was one part where they did kind of play off of homosexuality in a way that I thought was not great. Because within part 5, so far, there has been 2 homosexual couples, essentially.
Yep.
And I thought in both cases, the relative screen time was done in a way that was not only respectable, but was kind of dope, honestly.
Yeah.
So to have it kind of be lightened in a, like, quote unquote, lightened up by that kind of gag comedy moment, I thought was a bit like, what the hell, man?
Yeah, but that's just one part.
Yeah, that is one part. Okay.
But what is it that really is like grinding your gears about Golden Wind? What is it that's really holding you back from being like, no, this is, I'm with Will. This is the best part of JoJo.
I don't think the team is, to me, a team of people.
Yeah, makes sense. They're just, it's just the Rat Pack, right?
Yeah, and to me, like, when I look back on part 4, right, you get Josuke and his, like, friends at school, and they are, to me, like, bros. You obviously get Jotaro Joseph and his brotherhood of people. They're bros. Joseph and, what is the other guy? The guy with the scarf?
Oh, my God.
I literally just had a brain fart. Holy fuck.
Keep talking.
Okay, but they're bros. Jonathan is obviously a bro with Speedwagon and stuff. Here, it's like, as you said, Will, it's like a rack pack.
Caesar,
thank you.
How do we forget?
How do we fuck it? I don't know. I literally forgot to. But I understand that by definition, a rack pack, and also because Journo's kind of morality is more gray. If I were to kind of attest this kind of like a D&D alignment chart, you have your...
They're definitely chaotic neutral.
It's either chaotic neutral or like lawful neutral, right? It's like essentially like there's a certain set of rules and principles that I adhere to, but I don't conform always with what is either in front of me or what law and society dictates.
I think that's pretty much why you might feel that way about these characters in terms of like this little brotherhood you're talking about, right? Or like the lack thereof of a brotherhood.
Which is weird because the whole point of, to me, one of the main themes that they drive home is about loyalty and trust in part 5.
Yeah, but I think it's just also like the overbearing theme of the fact that morality itself is very gray. It just depends on which side of the spectrum you stand on in the first place, right? And so when you start introducing, the mafia, and in terms of what their purpose, because the mafia themselves, like, you're going to find people that say like, oh no, the mafia is great because they protect the citizens, they do whatever is needed for the poor and the needy. It's the same way that people talk about Robin Hood and all that, right?
Yeah, and then on maybe the same organization also does things like prostitution or racketeering, like drug dealing, and just like straight up murder and assassination, right? So it is within the same organization you get different shades of gray. I'm not disputing that, and especially with the whole kind of theme of, ambiguity and morality and just the mob, it is very much in the correct interpretation that you would expect and done very well.
But do you feel that maybe that kind of departure from brotherhood and loyalty was like, spent like the last 4 seasons just seeing people build up this brotherhood and loyalty, and
technically 3 seasons,
yeah,
but you know what I mean.
Yeah, and now to not see it, or as clear cut.
Yeah, like it's kind of like on a dime if this brotherhood is not as rock solid as it's supposed to be compared to the other 4 parts.
Yeah,
but does that mean that's like by design? Obviously, it is by design. Does that mean that's bad? No, it just means that to me it's new, and to me, therefore, by definition, it's unfamiliar, and therefore it is uneven.
Yeah, it comes down to like what you appreciate, right? There's always going to be people that when you watch a certain series or a movie, it's like people root for the villain, some people root for the hero, and some are a little bit more in between. In this instance, because of the fact that you're kind of more acclimated to seeing, a tight-knit group of people working together to take down a big bad, then it's like, okay, clearly, like, I could see one side being fucking awesome, but I'm going to root for this side. Whereas here, because everything is a little more like on the fence, clearly there's blood on both sides on their hands. It's a little less, it's a little more muddy in terms of where you see your alignment and your appreciation for this ensemble of characters.
Now, the look in terms of the metrosexuality of Jojo, to me, actually is great because I was actually way not used to the Conan, like the built Arnold Schwarzenegger. Because when
beefcakes, right?
Right, because previously, before I got exposed to Jojo, I was never exposed to anything before part 3, right?
Yeah.
So it's kind of like I'm used to everything that is kind of on full display now, and I'm just like, that's fucking dope.
Plus, it's also like you've been seeing so many shonen actions where it's like the main characters themselves are not big and beefy. They're not like fucking shredded and ripped for the most part. But then you start seeing like JoJo's part 1 through 4. They're all like fucking 6'5". They've got like massive like boulders for heads, and they're all chiseled like Schwarzenegger.
Yeah, and here's the other thing: they're still kind of like
jacked, ripped,
and mature because they keep at some point being like, oh, Giorno's 15. I'm like, bro, you don't fucking look 15, bro.
Yeah.
There was at one point, and this is not necessarily spoilers, he has to drive a car, right? And
it's
like,
the mob.
He's like, I don't have a license. I'm 15, but I know how to drive. And I'm just like, oh right, he's fucking 15, not like 25. Like, what?
And he's also part of the mob too, right? So rules don't apply.
Right, I get that, but it is this really jarring thing. That's all. I also think, though, there is, let's say, Giorno is at this moment not, quote-unquote, the leader of the Rat Pack, right? And that character, I mean, I think I can just reveal the name, right? At the very least. Yeah, Bruno
Bucciarati.
I fucking love him. Dope-ass character.
So good.
Like, he is probably, if we exclude any of the quote-unquote protagonists, he is my favorite character. I also think his stand power, fucking dope power.
Zipperman, right?
Yeah, like how can you make zippers a power, and how can it be so versatile and overpowering? And to me, it's like, fucking hold on to your butts, guys, because you're about to be blown away by this golden wind.
Yeah, man, you're saying a lot of stuff, but it seems like for the most part, you're still pretty positive on Golden Wind.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I mean, like, do you? Because you watched like well over 2 cours. I mean, in terms of like, you almost watched a cour and a half, basically, right? So, did you feel that this sort of jarring departure from this idea of loyalty in like a tight knit brotherhood, over like 28 episodes, 29 episodes, the 28 episodes was that consistent throughout, or or was it just more that like, whenever you saw the group interacting, you're like reminded, they're not as close as
Well, it's not just that, but also the backstory that they go into the Rat Pack. Well, we'll just call it Rat Pack, which is like the brotherhood in this the group of
Ratscallions.
Yeah, the group of main characters, right? I really don't give a shit about
half of them. Yeah.
I only give a shit about the guy in the black trench coat. Mm-hmm. Dope ass power, by the way.
Do you like Narangia?
I fucking hate him, but
no.
But I also like.
He's annoying. He's annoying as fuck, right? He's really annoying.
But he's also smart.
He's got moves. He
has a head on a swivel. He has a fight scene, let's say, in terms of seismic proportions, that involves in a certain street that ends in a fire, a blaze of glory.
Yeah,
very well. One of my favorite, probably my second favorite, like moment, like him trying to figure it out on his own. But I would say all the other one-on-ones, for the most part, the one-on-one battles are lackluster in my mind compared to all the previous parts.
Interesting.
I would say the team battles where there's at least like 2 or 3 of the group, those are actually pretty dope. But
it's funny you say that, where you think that the team battles are great, but then you're also kind of questioning the lack of brotherhood and loyalty being the main sort of like deterrent for your
because in those cases there was one that involves, because we're in Italy, of course you're going to go to Rome, and when you go to Rome you're going to go to Colosseum. All right, I'm not going to say what battles takes place, what happens, but technically that team battle is not necessarily a team battle. Let's just say
it's just 3 one-on-ones.
Yeah, but at the same time I liked how it was navigated. But and I do like certain one-on-one battles, but for the most part, I really don't care about Mista, for example. Mm-hmm. I think the power was kind of not that interesting. Of course, you can do a lot with that power.
That is one thing I will admit. I think that, like, in terms of the group itself, there were characters that by the end of it, I was just like, well, I'm glad that's done.
The kid power, I thought was also a very good, solid power, but it's not like one that I thought was super creative. That like the guy that starts with A, again, I'm not trying to say its name because it's kind of spoilery, the trench coat guy, and obviously Bruno, and obviously Journo. In fact, Journo has like my favorite power by far, like the most versatile, the best. I love his power. It's just like the best. It's just that like I like Bruno's character design and the ingenuity that comes from using zippers. In a way, it's like way harder to use it to your advantage in concept than Giorno's powers, but it's still like such a good power. So I really like the powers, Will. You see, but there's so much that I also felt. That's why I felt it was extremely uneven. That's how I would say. Now, does uneven mean bad? I've been wrong twice now. I don't think that I will fall for it a third time and say, oh no, the whole part 5 is going to be shit. No. In fact, towards the end of like, episode like 24, 25, I think, there was an extremely, in my opinion, extremely significant reveal that happens that kind of signifies an extremely major thing that if you did not know anything that will happen in parts 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, or whatever, the ramifications of what was occurring on screen or probably in your manga is extremely significant, and I'll probably go in depth at length in spoilers about it. It's spicy, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, there was nothing wrong with Part 5.
I mean, you sound like you quite like it.
But the things that I love, just like how I said that about Part 3 and Part 4, the things that I like are even better than the previous parts in terms of how I felt. But the things that I did not like is even stronger than all the previous parts. Okay, they all cancel out. It's neutral. But it just really left a distaste in my mouth at a certain point that, like, I wasn't, like, eyes glued to the screen anymore. I was just, like, watching it and kind of, like, checking, like, the wiki on the side. Not, like, really, like, eyes glued to the screen. Towards a certain train, though.
Yeah.
What's it with anime and trains and having awesome scenes like Mugen Train, and like trains are just like the best anime setting.
I mean, trains are awesome.
I mean,
trains.
Kabaneri and the Iron Fortress, like trains are fucking dope, dude.
I love trains.
I like getting trained. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Well, we'll save your thoughts and distastes about Golden Wind in the spoiler section, and we'll go into.
I would say it's still an 8 out of 10.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's
what are you? I can't give anything lower because I don't think that's fair. I also can't give anything higher because it all just evens out. But to me, this is like the highs and the lows are even more distinct.
Yeah. Definitely more like highs and lows. Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, we'll go into a quick sort of like non-spoiler section because honestly, there's not a whole lot I can say in terms of like non-spoilers for this particular series. One particular series and 2 movies. So first up, I'm going to be talking about them in terms of the order that I've watched them, not necessarily release order. So the first thing I watched was Sword Art Online Alternative: Gun Gale Online, a 12-episode spin-off from the main series of SAO. Now, this one is a little bit different from the others because this one's not done by A1 Pictures. No, not done by them anymore. This one is done by Studio 3 Hertz, a studio that does some really, really cool originals. Not all of them hit, but some of them do. So what the hell is Gun Gale Online? Well, it's actually referenced in the second season of Sword Art Online because it's literally the first arc of that particular season, where instead of swinging swords and flying around like fairies, they are now shooting each other with rifles and pistols and rocket launchers.
Hence in the name, right? Gun Gale Online, that's the name.
So this is an exploration of that particular world, that particular game, but focusing on different characters. I'm not going to go to the characters just yet because there's a little more spoiler. So
can we spoil like a color and a gun? Can we do that?
Yes.
So,
I mean, it's the pink 90.
Pink P90.
Yeah.
So, side note, the P90 is a Counter-Strike 1, because obviously Counter-Strike 2 exists now. Counter-Strike 1.6 weapon that like got me into using the P90 because I was like, yeah, fuck it. I mean, I watched Gun Gale. I watched Sword Art Online season 2. Let's Gun Gale Online. Yeah, kind of. Let's try the P90.
P90s aren't that great. You don't really see them out in the wild.
Yeah, you don't. And the recoil is kind of shit.
But it looks like a sick ass gun.
Yeah, the reload animation is pretty dope. I'll be honest.
So, what the hell is GGO about? Well, it just focuses on a different character that plays the game very, very, very religiously because of the fact that for her, she is not too keen about her real-life appearance. Have you watched Gun Gale Online?
Other than the promotional material, so kind of like the poster, I know nothing of Gun Gale Online. I mean, obviously, I know it's Gun Gale Online. I know it's a spin-off, so I know like the gist of it. But I don't know anything about what happens in Season 1. The other thing that I will say is I say Season 1. There's only one season of Gun Gale Online. That was the case until, I think, like a week.
2 weeks ago, yeah.
Where they announced Season 2 of Gun Gale Online. Is it still done by 3 Hertz?
I haven't checked, but I mean, I would be surprised if it wasn't. But yeah, if you watch Gun Gale Online, don't fret. There's going to be more of that shit. So back onto like the sort of, summarized plot of Gun Gale Online. It follows a main character named Karen who has a a height complex. She's not too keen on how tall she is. Now, it's not really referenced how tall she actually is, but let's just say she's taller than the average.
It is referenced.
Is it?
In Gun Gale Online Season 2, the plot summary. I have it.
How tall is she?
Oh, it's also done by Studio 3 Hertz. She is 163 centimeters tall, 6 foot.
Wait. 163 centimeters?
83.
83.
Sorry,
Yeah,
I
okay.
misspoke. 183,
So
6 foot
There you
tall.
go. 6 foot tall. So definitely taller than the average Japanese woman. So she is
Volleyball would be good for her.
She would. Yeah, but I mean, she's also really good at this game. So she essentially, escapes from reality, escapes from her height complex by playing GGO, Gun Gale Online, by taking up a very short and kawaii avatar carrying a adorable pink 90. I'm going to call it a pink 90 from now on because that's what the P stands for in P90. So she just basically kicks ass. That's literally it. I don't really have anything else to say in terms of like the non-spoiler section.
What, she kicks ass, take names, and chew gum, but she's all out of gum
There's
because
no
it's
gum in
pink.
this game, unfortunately.
Because it's pink.
But
you
she's damn good at this game. Now, are there any characters that are in this GGO that are from SAO Season 1, Season 2? No, but some of them are mentioned, especially when it comes to talking about some of the best players that ever played GGO. Guess what? It's Kirito again. So yeah, that's as far as it goes in terms of like hard, like embedded character references.
So Season 2 is fair game for me to talk about, right?
Yeah.
In terms of timeline, because I know
Shinon's not in there, but Shinon is definitely mentioned.
Oh, okay. Does the tournament happen?
They have different tournaments.
So not the well-known tournament that is in part of Season 2.
Not the Bullet of Bullets.
Not Bob?
No Bob. I think they have some other names, but they do mention Bob.
So
because they talk about the final part where Kirito and Shinon share victory by blowing themselves up. That's referenced in the
right.
in
It's kind of like, oh, did you hear about this? How it ended like that? Oh, that's crazy, right? Okay. So essentially, this is only a spin-off that is in relation to the parent series or the main series in spirit. And obviously, there are certain lores that connect it, but it's kind of like its own thing, really, in many ways.
It's set in the same reality, basically, right? Because the characters of Kirito, Shinon, and all that, they all exist in GGO.
What is like your personal take on having a spin-off taking place in the same reality, but not a spin-off such as like, the group of main characters, let's just take one of the supporting cast and do a thing like Rohan Kishibe, for example.
It's cool. I think it's nice because of the fact that like you're not focusing on the spin-off based on your appreciation of a singular character, right? Like for example, if Asuna or Lifa, decides to be like, oh, I'm just gonna fuck off and do my own adventure. Hey, okay, fine. I guess that's what's gonna happen. I mean, that's what Megumin is doing, right? With Konosuba.
No, but like Megumin is kind of like a core party member.
Yeah.
So I would say that this is
I mean, like
way more detached.
Yeah, I mean that's why I like it that way.
Yeah.
I think it's good to have that kind of variety because the other two we're going to be talking about, well, at least one of them we're going to be talking about is technically a side story focusing on a main character, right? Which is Ordinal scale, no, progressive. So I'm going to leave it at that for Gun Gale Online because literally anything else I say is pretty much going to be a spoiler.
How about this? Did you like it?
I'm going to talk about that more in the spoiler section.
Okay. How did it look then?
It looked okay. I think that Studio 3 Hertz does good work. It's clearly not the same. Like, you can definitely watch this and be like, this is totally not A1 Pictures, but that's not like a deterrent for you to watch Gun Gale Online. I don't think that you would be disappointed about how it looks.
So, just for some reference, the anime has a pure 7.0, ranked 4,024, but popularity 338.
Yep.
With almost 600,000, 596,000 members. That's quite a bit.
Yeah.
The source score of the light novel is 7.62, so it's still pretty high.
It's still pretty high, and to be fair, a flat 7 is still a decent score. I was going to talk about it in the spoiler section, but here I am now. It pretty much reflects how I feel about GGO.
Okay, got it.
Yep.
All right.
Now the next one I watched was Sword Art Online Progressive Aria of the Starry Sky. which is not it's not a side story. It's a missing
Starless.
Starless. Oh, as it Starry didn't I?
Yeah.
Starless Sky. Starless Sky.
Starless Night.
Yeah, Starless. Damn it! Wait, I thought it was Starless Sky.
Sword Art Online Progressive Aria of a Starless Night.
Then what's the next one, which is Scherzo of the Deep Night?
Okay, let me double check while you talk.
Yeah, because I'm pretty sure it's Starless Sky.
Maybe I fucked up. Okay, anyways, Will, would you want to give a quick rundown while I double check?
Yeah, sure. So this is a missing stories movie in the sense that, as we've seen with like Horimiya recently with the missing pieces, this is a movie that focuses on Asuna, the main heroine of Sword Art Online, and her side of the story from the beginning of SAO 1 through to like, near the middle, the middle of the Aincrad arc. What this does is essentially shows you a different perspective of other characters that were going through the hellhole that was the treacherous Nerve Gear, Kayaba being a massive dickhead, and characters realizing that you die in the game, you die in real life, right?
Aria in the Starless Night.
So what's the next one then? Scherzo at the Deep Night?
Yeah.
So it's night, no sky. Okay.
I mean, there is a sky at night.
I hope so. Otherwise, like, what is even night and day?
What is even life, guys?
What is even?
What is sky?
What?
What is blue? What is?
Well, blue's totally, of course, blue raspberry. That's what blue is.
No, it's not.
What is blue then?
Water, I guess.
No.
Technically, water is not a color in real life,
No.
but
It's called light refraction, dude.
bro, don't even start. Okay, so
Yeah.
when I say blue, you think of like
Blue raspberry. Cotton
Yeah.
candy.
yeah, okay, all
Blue
right.
Gatorade. I'm blue Gatorade all the way, by the way.
Oof, I'm fruit punch, but let's go.
Okay. So yeah, same thing. I can't go that much into the story of Progressive, but I will say that it's still done by A1 Pictures. I think it released in 2019. That's when it came out. No, wrong. Progressive came out 2021. It's Ordinal Scale that came out 2019.
So let me give you my kind of impression of Progressive as someone who actually did not consume it, but from an outsider's perspective. Sword Art Online Season 1, as Will mentioned, the Ironclad arc, is kind of the main storyline that is essentially everyone it considers the good part of Sword Art Online.
However, it was also known as the part that legitimately had some of the worst writing because of how much shit was cut out. And that's what Progressive aims to fix. Essentially, fixing all the little holes, all the different ascensions from level 1 through to level 5 and level so on.
Yeah, and I think that's the main part, which was in Season 1, there is a very clear time gap where all of a sudden you went from like the ground floor minus a couple of floors all the way to like literally the end of the game.
It is now 3 weeks later. 2,000 members have died. And I don't know what to do anymore. That's literally what happens within like the first 2 episodes.
And Progressive is essentially, as Will said, it's essentially explaining everything that happens in between that. Also, Progressive, I would say that is extremely highly ranked and rated by a lot of people, as well as on my anime list.
It is quite good.
7.98, ranked 625.
Wait. 9.8? Damn it, it dropped. Because yesterday it was a 7.99.
Oh, shit.
Who's out there? Who's fiddling with our scores?
Who knew that we're going to do this? 7.98, ranked 625, popularity 966. So it's definitely a very far cry from a lot of SAO, especially.
We have to remember again, right? Subsequent editions and entries for main series tend to have fewer members and all that. But hey, top 1,000, it's still
and I think
pretty good.
Alicization did like pick it up again in terms of like general reception.
Yeah.
It is like just like this kind of like middle section that's kind of like
I think what
iffy.
it did well, and these are not spoilers anyway, because I'm not revealing anything of the plot. What it did was that because it came out almost 10 years after the original SAO came out, it reminded people of, at least from the beginning, why they liked SAO in the first place. And they also added something which is very, very important and was very much lacking in season 1 and season 2 of SAO.
The romance?
No.
Oh shit.
Character backstory.
Oh,
Depth.
that's generally important. Yeah.
Yes, and that was definitely on full display for at least the first Progressive movie. Now, the second Progressive movie has come out. It came out October last year in Japan and February in North America and other places as well. So if you were lucky enough to watch it, good on you. I wasn't, because I didn't really care about SEO back then. But also the fact that if you do want to watch it, chances are you probably see it streaming at the end of the year, maybe beginning of 2024. We'll see. Now, the last thing I watched was Sword Art Online Ordinal Scale. Now, this one released in 2019. I think both of them were still Progressive as well as Ordinal Scale were done by A1.
Would you say Progressive though? Generally,
I like it. I like it.
Would you give it a score or?
I want to reserve my scores during the spoiler section because I kind of want to. There are certain reasons as to why I gave that particular score. Now, Ordinal Scale is a completely original story. What does that mean? Well, it really doesn't have a whole lot to do with SAO, but because of the fact that it's still an SAO property, they're going to find ways to tie it back into Sword Art Online. And it's not just down to the characters, it's also down to how the plot carries further beyond the movie and into the main series. So where does Ordinal Scale actually fit in? So it fits in the events after season 2. Because I think it released shortly before Alicization started airing. Or maybe Alicization was already out back then. I don't remember. Did it come out 2019 or 2017? I don't remember.
So let me just give you the rundown. So first of all, SAO Ordinal Scale is a movie. SAO Ordinal Scale is also written by the original creator of Sword Art Online.
I like that you're also giving the stats for SAO, but failed to give any for Jojo. Because you know it's damn good.
Yeah,
it's like amazing.
It's an 8.53 or something like that. I mean, I'll get into it. Yeah, sure. But let me.
You don't have to. I'm just joking.
Sure. No, I mean it's going to be good. It's in fact I think it's higher than Part 4.
Yeah.
But SAO Ordinal Scale.
I think it was a 7.67. I think it was mid sevens for sure. But that's
2017.
Not okay, so 2017. So, and then Alicization came out 2018. Yeah, so it came out before. So it focuses very much on the world of gaming still. So that's going to be consistent for any SAO property. But unlike the previous iterations of SAO, including GGO and Progressive, it's not a VR-based system. The Nerve gear has been shut down because it's caused too much problems. There's a lot of security issues. And now, instead of focusing on VR gaming, they're going into AR gaming, augmented reality. So they have new headsets to use to be able to play this new game. Get this, called Augma.
Well, at least the naming convention is just as dumb because Kawahara, the original creator of SAO, it considers it canon. So suck it, anime original people who says it's not part of the lore.
Well, I mean, hear me out. That's how I felt about it too, until, of course, they... Again, I'm going to go over into spoilers, but yep, it's canon, no matter how you see it.
And your boy, Jason, actually watched this movie in the theaters in Melbourne, of all places.
And you hated it.
I fucking hated that shit. Okay, that was spoilery. But anyways,
I think that's about it in terms of like going more into like the non-spoiler stuff because I'm ready to unload on a lot of aspects of Progressive, Gunga Online as well as Ordinal Scale.
I will say this. If memory recalls, it still looked fucking gorgeous. Yeah, in fact, if anything, it's
A1, man. It's A1 in its heyday, and it's still very much in its heyday.
And I watched season 2.
Did you watch it in like IMAX?
I did.
Yeah.
It also, like, there was a scene, kind of like a finale climactic fight scene
Yeah.
that I thought was actually kind of like cool because it combined a lot of things together, Easter eggs and everything. It was just a very good scene. But I think the huge majority of it, to me, was just very much, and I didn't really care.
Yeah.
I just thought it was not great.
Yeah. We'll go into those thoughts into our spoiler section. So we're going to take a quick break, and afterwards we'll go into full-blown spoilers of Sword Art Online Alternative for Gunga Online, as well as Sword Art Online Progressive, what's it called again? Aria of the Starless Night, as well as Ordinal Scale, the other movie. And then we're also going to be talking about spoiler sections of episodes 1 through 28 for JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Part 5, Golden Wind, also known as Vento Oreo. So we'll catch you all after the break.
Welcome back to the second half of this episode of the Good Anime Palette Podcast. This is episode number 64. We are doing Gotta Watch Them All 8, the spoiler section. I am your co-host, Jason. Will is over here having a good sip of water.
Stay hydrated, boys and girls.
And now we will get into spoiler sections for each of the properties that we are talking about. SAO Gun Gale Online, just called GGO, Ordinal Scale Movie, Progressive Movie, the first one, as well as episode 1 to 28 of JoJo Part 5 Golden Wind. We will give timestamps as well as like a pause. We kind of do it like several seconds pause. Will, how are we going to determine which one of the two, SAO or JoJo, goes first?
I think because of the fact that we spent quite a lot of time in terms of like sort of dissecting your likes and dislikes of Golden Wind, why don't we start with that? Why don't we go into the spoiler section of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Part 5 Golden Wind?
Okay, so spoiler sections after the pause. Okay, so one of the things that I really adore about, and this is just like a personal thing that it doesn't apply to a lot of things, is when you hand off the previous part to kind of like transition to the present part. So obviously I like Echoes a lot, the stand. I also is it Ichiro? Koichi. Fuck.
Best boy, right?
Yo, dude, what's up with us and names today?
Yeah.
And just like general like shenanigans.
Well, I mean, it's been a while since I've watched JoJo Part 5.
It's been a while since we recorded,
and also,
too.
And also, there's a lot of characters in both of these series. So it's not going to be easy to remember shit.
Fucking thank God in a way that
For the internet, yeah.
Araki knew that, like, oh, Jason and Will are going to record. So we should make all these rapper names as well as all these, like, general, like, names of these music artists. So then Jason and Will won't fuck up this recording.
Yeah. So, intro into Golden Wind, and you see best boy Koichi Hirose walking into Italy, suitcase and all, being like, I gotta find this person.
Jotaro gets a cameo of 2, right? I thought it was a really good transition. Mm-hmm. At first, I thought, because I was listening back to our spoiler section of my overall impressions of Part 4, and I kind of made some predictions, and it turns out some of those predictions became reality. But to go off of that, I was like, oh, it would be cool if they all like mesh together. But this was kind of a nice concession in terms of, okay, it's like a handoff, right? So Koichi is not necessarily that important in the main storyline, of course, but kind of is like, oh, he shows up kind of like pass the baton.
And the previous JoJos are like, I'm just chilling in my hometown, or like, here, Koichi, go do your thing.
Yeah. So I thought that was like a nice touch, right? Giorno is a really good character, and finding out that he is the illegitimate son of Dio to me is very much like, okay, so the last part was Josuke being the illegitimate son, kind of, right? Like, you got Joseph was, trying to keep,
Philandering around.
yeah. And then this is essentially Dio kind of doing the same thing. And I'm just like,
At that point, it's also, I think, where like you start setting in that morality scale too, right?
Exactly.
Where the kid's like, okay, well, you're the offspring of Dio, but like you're also the main character in the story. How are you going to navigate this whole plot?
and it was hard for me to talk about it in non-spoilers, right? Because this
You say that, yeah, it's a massive revelation.
but to have his morality essentially be like Giorno heavily considers his values and principles, right? So even though it's fluid, Dio just doesn't give a fuck. Dio has nothing.
Yeah.
But he's like all a like self-important narcissist, like I don't give a shit.
Purely chaotic evil.
And I would say that almost in many ways, Giorno is the polar opposite. He is so headstrong in his dream. He is so headstrong in what he believes in that even when everyone is like, fuck off, I'm running away, he's like, nah, we can't do that.
Yeah. He's definitely that shining knight. He still aspires to be like the beacon of trust and hope and all that, and even in like the darkest of times.
Yeah, and he has certain rules that he lives by to a fault. And I think that is so different of a contrast to Dio. Is kind of, oh, how is the bloodline going to expand? Because I was like, oh, if the Morino town, you can't, how's that going to work? And it turns out, well, you can do it like this. So to kind of have more stands and more essentially Jojo Dio's bloodline.
Offsprings, followers,
bloodline,
and whatnot.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The reappearance of the arrow, no bow this time, is kind of interesting. Like right off the bat, like just straight up, it's just like, oh, are you the chosen one? I'm just like, oh, okay. Holy shit, this is like what, episode 2, 3? The fuck.
Yep.
So that was kind of interesting.
How about that bus scene when you finally meet Bruno?
It's like a tram,
What-
right?
it's
like a peak
Oh yeah,
tram.
yeah. It's one of those
It's like the Hong Kong
incline
peak
ones,
tram. Yeah, that was hella dope. My God.
When you finally see Zipperman doing his thing as well.
So I knew about there was a stand that uses the power of zippers. And this was me with no like idea of JoJo's stands other than like very, very like rudimentary info.
Or it's like you could think of something wacky, but it's also like
Like, what are you going to do with zippers? And then
Yeah.
it turns out, oh, it's like, do you like Portal, the game? It's kind of like that, but like even crazier. And I'm like, oh, wow, this is actually hella dope. I love the power. I love Zipperman. I think it's great. I like Bruno as a character as well. I think of the Rat Pack, he is by far the most significant in my mind in terms of personal impression. But I think that's also by design. I think because he's the leader, that makes sense. I think his ascension to Capo was way too fast. And like, I thought that was like the whole buildup.
yeah.
But no, that was like episode 4 or 5. And then all of a sudden it's just like, oh, I thought it was going to be like this treasure hunt, literally. Oh, we're going to span like all of Italy to find this beacon of riches that is going to propel us to literal fame and stardom within the mafioso. No. We're just going to find that behind some urinal.
Yeah, I think it's also. I mean, like you're basically thrown into the deep end in terms of how all the characters needs to get their shit together and go about doing their thing. But it's also like the extremities of how each character is characterized, for lack of a better word. The fact that like I think Giorno and Bruno are amazing characters, but you can't say the same for the other characters. It's basically kind of like if you were to compare it to JoJo Part 4, where Josuke Higashita, the other JoJo, was just like, he's cool, I like him, but for you, like, he wasn't your favorite, and all the other side characters outside of Koichi were kind of like, not as memorable. Maybe
I mean, Rohan I would say in part 4 there were maybe like 5 characters that were significant, right? The 3 JoJos,
Yeah.
Koichi and Rohan.
Yeah.
I think everyone else is still important.
But it's like they were good, but they weren't like whoa, like they're super memorable. Whereas like here in Part 5, Giorno is super memorable. Bruno is super memorable, but the others are kind of like, who the fuck are you?
Yeah, they're just like to me, if you replaced any of these other characters, I would have been like, not know the difference. Of course, I know the difference, but that just kind of highlights the importance of those characters. I think especially that, in my opinion, their powers, like Mista's power of Sex Pistol, was kind of like, okay, so you're just like shit. What was that movie where that is based on a graphic novel by Mark Miller, where they curve the bullets? Angelina Jolie. I fucking forget again.
Oh.
Essentially, you can curve bullets like or and slow down and change trajectories, kind of like Max Payne as well, right? Like, I'm just like, okay. I mean,
Wanted.
Yeah. So that's a cool power, no doubt. That's a powerful power, but it's like not creative. And especially how they execute the powers are not like very ingenious. Like, I always considered how the utilization of powers to be reflective of its creativity rather than how OP it is. Like, to me, Dio's power of, and I guess now Jotaro's power of being able to stop time, to me is not that interesting.
You have to go beyond that now, right?
Yeah.
You can't just continuously just use Zawalda every single time.
Yeah, and I know that like the well of powers that you can choose from gets lesser and lesser the more characters you introduce, right? So it's hard. It's not like an easy task. But to me, like, essentially having a bioweapon as your stand but not being able to control it is kind of cool in concept, but he only appears once. The stand only appears once. The kids essentially like fighter plane Hornet kind of stand I thought was really cool.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's like very creative. I thought actually the enemies, the villains, their powers is extremely creative. For example,
you're being extremely nitpicky with that one.
For example, very early on, there's a guy who can shrink stuff, and he's like the butt end of the joke in terms of his gang. And I'm like, dude, that power is like OP as fuck if you like think of really creative ways to navigate
but, I mean,
it.
you think about the previous ones too. I mean, like, the villain powers tend to be more like, well, what the fuck's going on compared to the heroes.
What do you mean by what the fuck's going on? What do you mean by that?
Well, I mean, like, you compare, for example, like Polnareff from season 3 with Silver Chariot. It's just him with like a stand in silver armor and a rapier.
Yeah,
That's about it, right? It's standard. Whereas like the villains, they're all like, whoa. Especially like, when you start meeting all the different villains doing their little games throughout the deserts and all that. I mean, you mentioned it too, like a lot of times too, where like the villains had some dope ass powers. I think that's just consistent. It's not that different from like the previous ones.
it is not that different, except when you contrast it with Bruno and Giorno. That's
Yeah.
my problem. Because I think both of them, how they use their powers, especially Giorno's power of essentially giving life and melding.
That's why they're main characters.
Well, yeah, but that doesn't mean that like that therefore excuses all the good like the good people's
I don't know, man.
like
I
powers.
feel like you're being pretty nitpicky with this one.
Sure.
Yeah,
You're welcome to feel that way.
I'm not like arguing with you here. By the way, you don't have to be like so like pissed off about it.
I'm not pissed off.
I'm just saying like it's. I mean, I'm just thinking that like your criticism of the previous ones are kind of consistent with this one too. So it's not that.
That's why I said I've been wrong both times in the how I felt first half. Right.
Yeah.
So,
It's basically like it's going to
deja-
happen.
deja vu.
Yeah, it's going to be again in the next episode where you're like, oh, I was totally wrong.
Yeah, that's why I prefaced it by saying this happened twice already, so you're not going to fool me a third time, Jojo.
But
I know.
But you're going to just continue to play into it because
that's how I feel.
This is how it's going to be.
That's how I feel, man. Like, isn't that valid in a certain way?
I'm not critiquing you again, man. Chill out. Like, I'm not critiquing you. I'm just pointing out like an observation of how your criticisms of the previous ones are consistent with this one. That's just basically it.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair.
And you were also pretty nitpicky about the ones before too. That's basically it.
Yeah. So I think though the thing that is different here is Trish as well as certain stands. And let me kind of signify the ramifications of that. So the first thing is Notorious B.I.G. I can't believe I can say that with a straight face. Of the stand is something that when I thought about it some more has huge ramifications because, at least to my knowledge, because there is so many characters, there is not a lot of stands at the very least where the characters perish, but the stand still remains. And I think there... Oh, wow, it's raining pretty hard all of a sudden. I think this is like, at least to my indication, especially because I just watched it like a couple of days ago and yesterday, it's one of the few stands that when the user is gone, the stands don't just disappear with it, right? So that's kind of interesting. I think the other thing that's rather interesting is I think they call it Babyface, the guy with the laptop that kind of melds stuff. I can't really exactly figure out his powers. All I know is kind of crazy, right?
Yeah.
But the thing is that now all of a sudden they start saying things like, oh, they are like remote distance type. They never said that before, right? They always just say, oh, this is your stand with that power.
This is the evolution of stands.
Yeah. So all of a sudden now we are typecasting it in a certain way, kind of like Pokemon or like any other kind of video game, like gamifying it in a certain way. Oh, you're long distance. Oh, the radius is only like 3 meters and 5 meters. Although the distance thing has played a big role in previous parts, but now it's kind of...
They're getting a bit more technical with it.
Yeah, it's kind of like, oh, we all have stands. What's the big deal now? Let's try to like figure out like the granular, like analyzing it. So I thought that was like new. That was kind of interesting.
Out of the characters that you have, right? And we're not talking about like the villains either, because there's just way too many. But we're talking about like the troop of young boys, right? So you got Jojo
Plus girl, I guess, right?
And Trisha, yeah, because she joins in. By the way, what did you think about the Coco Jumbo arc? The big turtle.
You mean on the train?
Yeah.
What do you mean? Like
what did you think about that whole arc?
I told you, trains are fucking dope ass settings for anime.
Yeah.
I love that setting.
Yeah, we'll extrapolate that in a little bit because I do want to ask in terms of like, so you got Giorno, Bruno, you got Guido Mista, Narantia. I think you also have what's his name, Leone Abaccio,
Fugo,
and Funo Panacotta. Right? Who's your least favorite of those 6?
Fugo.
I fucking hate Fugo. I really fucking hate Fugo.
I think he's
fucking useless.
First of all, his stand is useless, right? He can't.
He's a bitchy little whine ass prick.
However, the very climactic scene that happens at like the harbor where they have to choose sides, because this is spoilers now, right?
Yeah.
They choose sides. The fact that he wouldn't
go on, yeah.
Like he's essentially the deserter, the only deserter, although you could say he's not a traitor to the organization, right? To me, that was the one that makes the most, like, I hate to be it that way, but from a lot of perspectives, that was the right move.
Like, in terms of, like, them playing along their morality alignments, like, that was the move that he had to make. And if any other thing, then it wouldn't have made sense.
Yeah, I think it might be possible that a lot of people would criticize Fugo as a character at that moment.
He's a bitch-ass punk.
But to me, if I agree he's a bitch-ass punk, but that's exactly what a bitch-ass punk would do.
Yeah.
So if you're going to criticize his betrayal to the group as a criticism,
you're proving his point.
Yeah, and you're also being hypocritical because I agree with you. He's a punk-ass bitch with anger issues. So, of course, he's going to be like the one guy that hangs back, right?
Yeah.
To me, that he's the one who uses the stand the least because he can't even fucking control it, and it's also super dangerous, which I get, but also, like, he's doing things in character.
Yeah.
I'm not criticizing the decision because that, to me, is, like, actually, like, the most impactful part. In fact, to me, that's like the biggest compliment I can give.
And in a way as well, even if you hate the character, I mean, like
I hate the character,
but he's written that way, and like that actually would, in a way, kind of contribute to it being good writing as well.
Like
he's written the way that you just do not root for this guy,
right? Like when you think of King Joffrey in Game of Thrones, you think of him as a punk-ass bitch, but he's written in such a way that that's the emotion.
The point, yeah.
That's the point, such that you shouldn't hate the writer you should hate the character, but commend the writer for writing a character that could instill that emotion in you, because that's the point. So to me, you can't have your cake and eat it too and say Fugo's a shitty character and he shouldn't have betrayed the group.
Yeah,
because
it's,
to me,
it's also refreshing to see that, like, before, with every single iteration of Jojo, like, everybody is like, yeah, let's fucking go, let's go destroy this fucking Dio bitch. But this time now it's like, you know what? No, I'm cool. I'm gonna hang back. You guys do your thing.
And technically, Narancia it was like a semi-deserter, right?
Yeah.
But then got welled up by the emotional trauma that he incurred and what he saw, that he then ends up essentially switching sides at the very last minute.
Well, he's a punk as well. He legitimately has no moral compass whatsoever.
He's immature. He is a kid. He is, even though he's technically, can you believe that he's 2 years older than Journo? Like, how the fuck? Okay, here's the other thing. This is not necessarily criticism, but how can a 15-year-old be this good at life? I'm not criticizing your life choices or your powers or your circumstances, because that's fictional, right? But how can a 15-year-old be that built, be that calm, be that analytical, be that perfect, other than being fictitious?
I mean, he belongs to the streets, dude. That's just how he's grown up.
Don't use that as a barometer to be like, bro, if I was on the streets, I would be just as smart as he is. Because no, this is one of those types where, like, he has an IQ of like 5,000, but he just so happens to, like, grew up in hard times.
It just makes you question. It's like, is he really 15? Come on, you know?
And somehow Narancia is 17? Like, bro, okay. But all right, like, here, we're not here to question that. And to me, that's not a criticism. It's just like a side observation that really bothered me when I think about it.
What did you think about Trish?
Okay, so let's talk about her, because that's, like, to me, if I had to say one thing that is the most important in this part in terms of contributing to the whole JoJo series, Trish is the most important thing that has happened since Jotaro. Because this is another shift. Because obviously now we know about Stone Ocean. So that's, at that time, we wouldn't have known. Like, if you were to read the manga, or
it's not spoiler anyway, because everybody's seen the posters and all that.
It's a female protagonist in Stone Ocean,
and
right?
you haven't really seen anything that's, like, close to, like, a female who can hold her own since Lisa.
I mean, yeah, and technically Lisa did not have a stand.
No, she just had very good control of her hamon.
You get Holly, right? Jotaro's mom.
Yeah.
Where she has, like, the thorn, so she is, like, affected, but she technically is not, quote unquote, a chosen one, so she's gonna die because her stand's gonna kill her.
But then you also have Josuke's mom, who is, like, definitely a protector of her family, but she's also, like,
a strong ass girl, strong ass woman.
She ain't got no stand, right?
Exactly. So, and here's the other thing about Spice Girl, which I thought dope ass name. When
Trish really played out to be a damsel in distress in the beginning, right?
Yeah, and by the way, when Spice Girl revealed her name, it was just like the biggest, like, it should be kind of serious, I guess, but all I could be was like that StarCraft player in the booth that was just like the level of hokiness, lameness, and badassery all meld into one moment. I was just like just closing my eyes, like just clapping, like, to no one. Like, this is
the magical girl revolution.
This is
we've been
just
waiting
JoJo
for.
as fuck moment. Okay, but Spice Girl.
If there's ever a time when we can get a fucking JoJo's Bizarre Adventure and a Sailor Moon collaboration, I would fucking love that shit.
It's going to be quite weird, but I'm going to love it. So here's the thing, Will. Spice Girl is sentient.
Yep.
Which, to my knowledge, is almost unheard of previously.
Yeah.
Because she is not only talking to Trish, she essentially guides Trish. They're almost like, rather than an extension of your body, because time and time again, from hamon being like this energy that you weld versus
the ripples and all that, right?
Yeah. Versus a stand who is kind of like, they even say like an extension of you, right?
Yeah.
Of your persona.
Yeah.
But this is like, yes, Trish and Spice Girls considers like two halves of a whole, and Spice Girls to the point where when they refer to Spice Girl, they say they say she, her, rather than it. So it's kind of like we acknowledge you as like a sentient being. to me is like so magnificently crazy to me that I don't know if it will carry on to other parts, but technically at that moment, right? If you didn't know anything about part 6, if you didn't know about the manga, that moment is kind of fucking crazy.
Yeah, you watch that, you're like, well, what the fuck? She can talk?
Yeah. Wait, when Trish is like losing her mind, like because she's scared out of her wits.
It's pretty much like the yin and the yin to her yang, right?
Yeah.
Like she's scared. She's been protected her whole life. She's born out of like a family where like literally like the biggest mob family in the town, and she's also never met her father before.
And you might be like, Jason, are you overthinking it? Because maybe it's like a dual personality thing. I'm like, yeah, maybe. Except within Golden Wind already, there is a dual personality inside of it. So what does that say about Spice Girl?
Yeah.
Because the main villain, has dual personalities, which also has crazy other ramifications too.
Yeah.
Like, the Crimson King's ability to like jump through time, right? To me, when I saw that, I'm like,
boring.
Okay, all right.
You ain't no Dio. Come on.
I mean, listen, it's overpowered. I get it. Like, good on you. But it's just like,
it's become like a bit too tropey in that sense, right?
Right.
You see it, you're like, well, no shit, it's gonna be powerful.
It's not like Groundhog's Day in part 4, where that's like, to me, like fucking insane ass thing.
Yeah, that was really cool.
But to me, Spice Girl, that's why to me, Spice Girl and Notorious B.I.G. in that plane, that whole sequence is to me technically, if I don't know part 6, is the most important thing so far. Because not only is there a clear example of a stand continue to exist after the user is gone, you get a female stand user who technically we don't know has been struck by the arrow as well, which is kind of insane. Then have a stand that talks, communicates, treats almost like a sentient being, which I guess it is a sentient being. Like, what is going on? Is it a one-off? Maybe. But if that's all you had going forward, has huge ramifications. Probably forums at that time.
Well,
this going ape shit.
Well, this is just basically laying into what I was saying, where like the things and you said too, right? The things that you liked, oh wow, they're spiking. But there are also things that where you're like, I didn't really like that part too much. It seems that they kind of weighed a bit more on your conscience in this part. So, what were the sort of things that kind of held you back from being like, yo, I absolutely love this shit. This is amazing. To rather being, yo, there were some dope ass parts, but man, this part really irritated me, or this character or this thing was just not on par with what I expect from Jojo.
Are you just like asking me?
Yeah.
Well, like for example, I thought Fugo was infuriating as fuck.
Yeah.
And to have him kind of basically, I would say is a good character portrayal of that archetype.
Yeah.
But I just thought his inclusion in the group is so insignificant to me.
Yeah.
That to me he's like, oh, you're the tutor. You're the good boy. But I'm not saying that in a way that is like complimenting of your character. I'm just saying that like, what is your purpose? Not saying the writer is not doing a good job. In fact, it's the opposite.
He was definitely put there for a reason, and it's to make characters unlikable and make the viewers hate that character.
Yeah. Also, fishing rod guy, Pescio, dope ass character, kind of. I like his ability, and within that train, he fucking Pesci. He just does a whole seasons of character development in one go, like a fucking dope ass character. Also looks weird as fuck by design, so I guess sure. But I love that character. In fact, like his Aniki, who is essentially the Black Plague. I'm like, okay. Oh, right. Aerosmith is the name of the... I'm like, okay, guys. Like, really? Like, fucking... All right. Purple Haze. Like, all right. Okay, sure. Rain. Prince and all that stuff. I get it.
I can't wait to see, like, the new stands that Araki's going to be using for JoJo lands. And using more like, oh, guess what? I'm about to unleash Nicki Minaj. or Megan the Stallion.
No, it's like Anaconda, right?
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah. No. Oh, God. But it's not going to be snake related. It's not going to be like Anaconda related.
But there'll be milkshakes, right? Okay. So, Leone is the other character within the group, excluding Bruno and Giorno, that I really like a lot because his character development of gray area, of he was in the light and then fucked up, accepted a bribe, got his partner killed. It's very stereotypical stuff.
He's got beautiful pink hair.
Also, can I just say, total G. Fucking end moment at episode 28 of I'm gonna fucking implant my Stan's face, which is technically not his face, it's the boss's face. But like, what a G, dude.
Yeah.
Also, he got done dirty.
Yeah.
Like, he just got killed just like that.
Yeah.
Kind of fucked up. But in a way, I'm kind of like, damn.
Went out like a hero.
Press F to pay respects, right? So, and his character to rewind time, fucking dope. When it's like a cassette tape.
Yeah. Now, we talked about Bruno, Giorno, Narancia, Fugo, as well as the guy just now. But there is one more character.
Mista?
Guido Mista. Now, you mentioned that you were not too hot about him before.
I'm not too hot about his powers in a way that is just very stereotypical. I like his gun, obviously, because it's purple.
He was Nick's cop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like the pets.
I like his outfit, too.
Yeah. I also like the fact that he's just like, yo, by the way, there's this really important thing that is time constraint, but we need to have lunch, guys. I'm just like, this guy knows the fuck he wants. Like he may not be on point all the time. He might be a dumbass or whatever. You're sure, but he knows what he wants and he knows when he wants it. Like, you know what I mean? Like, and the only thing is like his battle, essentially his one-on-one battle on the truck, to me was like semi cool because I liked what happened and occurred. I also liked him defeating the ice guy. But in the ice guy was a tag team with Giorno. And I thought like that was interesting. And but listen, people are going to get hurt in Stan's battle, so I guess from now on, I mean, if we're going off of Josuke as well as Giorno, you're going to need a support healer type every step of the way.
Yeah.
Like, I guess you can't use Hamon now. So, sure. I mean, I don't know. Like, every time, like, I thought, like, when your arm gets sliced off, like, it's just game over. I did. And then it was like, oh, the next episode's like, oh, we stitched it back together. I'm just like, the fuck? Like, I get it within the lore.
Yeah.
You have that power. But it's also like, again, deja vu.
This is fucking insane.
It's like deja vu, part 3 and part 4. Like, there is no risk or stakes.
Yeah.
Here, I would say there's more. But,
take it what you will. Any other thoughts about JoJo Part 5?
I think Part 5 is how I feel about Star Wars or Lord of the Rings, which is I highly respect it, and I think it's really good. It's not my favorite thing, and
at least up until episode 28.
Yes, yeah. And I don't necessarily like hate it or love it, but historically speaking, whether it is within the industry or within the JoJo lore, it is probably the most important one so far by a mile.
Yeah. And also, when you look into like reviews and surveys and whatnot, people either love Part 4 or Part 5.
I thought everyone liked Part 5. No one I know really cares about Part 4. Ooh. At least when I like.
Well, it's the same discussion of do you like Final Fantasy 6 or Final Fantasy 7? Right? Loads of people are going to say 7, but there's a very strong core of people that also really love Final Fantasy 6.
Maybe I'm biased, but I just like understand why people like Part 6 though. I still like Part 7 over Part 6, but like the 8-bit 16-bit kind of ARPG, not ARPG, like
JRPG, yeah.
JRPG.
When you say ARPG, you mean like adventure RPG, right?
Yeah. Thank you for throwing me a bone. I'm not totally thinking about Diablo when I was saying ARPG, but I appreciate you trying to give me an out. I'm not going to take it though. Okay, I've been going on at length. I'd still like Part 5. I really do.
Yeah. Like, would you say that you rate it higher than the first 3 parts, like 1, 2, and 3? Because you had a lot of things to say about 3 in terms of like it ending really well, but
Okay.
yeah,
Again, preface it by not finishing part 5 yet.
yeah,
Which I also felt the need to say again. I've been wrong twice now about how I felt the first half that I saw and then the second half. However, based on what I've seen so far, part 4 is the highest. No duh. I would say part 3.
and then part 4, part
And then
5.
part 5, then part 2, then part 1.
Yeah, but you're also basing it off of having completed the previous 4 parts and still on your way to finishing off part 5. So
Ask me
this can
this
change.
question again at the end of the next Gotta Watch Them All.
Yep.
And I'd be able to answer you definitively.
But as things stand, you're still holding on to an 8 out of 10.
Of course.
Cool.
It's like I don't think any Monogatari is below an 8, but I think
What about
there's
Nisei Monogatari?
I still gave it an 8,
You gave it an 8. I gave that one a 7.
because some of the scenes were really good. Just
Okay,
like how,
okay, fine. The last 2 episodes of Nisei were great, but
no, some of the things here in part 5 already is fucking the things that I like in all of JoJo thus far.
Yeah.
I think Bruno, some of the abilities,
Trish.
more of like the impact of it in the series.
yeah.
But the rest of a lot of it is like the worst.
But time will tell, right?
Yeah.
Now, we're going into the spoiler section for the different entries of Sword Art Online.
How about we do each one individually such that we have a pause after each one?
Yeah, no, I have to anyway, because
Yeah, okay.
you have to break them up. So we'll do a quick pause because we'll be going into Sword Art Online Alternative Gun Gale Online, starting now. So Gun Gale Online is a bit of a mess. I appreciate that you wanted to create a story that's expanding on a specific game / world, because you have like Alfheim, you have Sword Art Online itself.
I mean, it makes sense, right? It's like, oh, hey, in this lore, we have created all these online games. What makes you to say that there shouldn't be spin-offs of characters, even not necessarily directly related?
Yeah, I mean that's why you also have like the progressive movie focusing on Aincrad, right?
So here, before we get into spoilers for Gun Gale Online, I need to ask you 2 questions.
Go.
The first is, were you surprised of a season 2 announcement?
Yes.
Okay.
Very surprised.
Like, almost like, what the fuck? There must be some stat or thing that we don't know.
It's SAO, man. SAO / GGO. But I mean,
Okay.
good on the people who decided that they wanted to bring back.
Okay,
Gun
3
Gale Online.
questions, actually. I actually realized.
Right.
The second question is, and again, I've not seen GGO. How much of this is in concept similar to Max Defense Isekai? But
I haven't watched
Bofuri.
I haven't watched Bofuri yet.
But it's like cute girl with like a dope ass shield. In this case, cute girl with dope ass P90s. Pink 90s, sorry.
Yeah.
Pink 90s.
Pink 90s, yes.
Can you at
Thank
least say that it's iconic?
Yeah, very much. I mean, like that's the number one thing you will see as a very, very short, pink-haired girl, a pink costumed girl, along with a massive pink 90.
Okay, so lay it on thick, bro. Tell me how you feel. Why is it so mid?
I thought that the characters lacked a lot of depth.
Okay, so it's not bad. But it's very mid, right?
It's I wouldn't even say it's mid. I think it's not that low. What I would say is that, did I enjoy watching it? Yeah, I thought it was good. I thought like there were definitely some moments of entertainment, but what I didn't like was the fact that the focus was less on the characters and more on Gun Gale Online itself, the world of Gun Gale Online.
So it's more of like an excuse to focus on the world rather than the characters that live in the world, right?
More game, more guns, more GG. That's basically it, right? All the G's you want. The characters I felt were quite lackluster in terms of their expressiveness, their motivations for being in the game.
Was it at least tactical?
Oh yeah, there was definitely okay. That's the thing that was really good. There were a lot of tactics in GGO in terms of like how you have different sized squadrons, if you were working in a pair, how you would coordinate defense and attack, how you would move along the map. Because the way it works is just basically like your
First person shooter, but it's an MMO, right?
yeah. Well, and then like the battles they have are like it's like Fortnite or like PUBG.
Right.
Right. Map gets smaller, and you have to start moving in, and you have to eliminate people until you get your chicken dinner. That's basically what the main game is.
Did this came out before? No, this was created before PUBG, right?
I believe so.
Or Battle Royale games, but Battle Royale in concept has been there for a long time.
Yeah,
so.
yeah. So I didn't really like the characters. They weren't that memorable.
How many were there? Like in the core group, I guess.
So there was Karen, the main character. There was like a group of like.
Was she a Karen or was she just cool?
She's just a tall ass girl. That's it. That's all she really is.
So she has nothing of substance, right?
And it's also like when you think about the previous characters, right? Like Asuna and like her issues of connecting with her family, Kirito just being a fucking like edge boy. Shinon's backstory was fucking crazy.
I think all of the characters that at least I know of the first 2 seasons in Ordinal scale, at least, I can pinpoint something about each of these characters, even like Samurai Bro, even like
Klein, yeah,
but bartender dude, even like the quote unquote bad characters, right? Like blacksmith girl, or like there was something about each character that I can kind of say like several bullet points, right? That's like either their archetype or something that happened to them. Is it very forgettable here?
There's not a whole lot. Yes, there are some characters that kind of like try and go into like, oh, like I have like personal traumas, or like I actually in the real life have very, very low self-esteem and whatnot.
Because a height kind of it's like weird in terms of like body dysmorphia, or at least like you don't like the way you look,
she's
right?
Got like a body complex for sure.
I do think that concept of you want to look different than your real life persona is something that I think a lot of people who play MMOs can relate to, right?
The problem is they don't go into depth with that.
Yeah.
They just say this is a girl who is 6 foot tall and really does not like her height.
So she grabbed her height slider and just slide it all the way.
No, it was randomized. You just basically get given an avatar. I mean, apparently it's a very super rare avatar because not only is she short, she's also kawaii as fuck.
So not only did she not be short voluntarily, it was fate. Oh, for fuck's sake. Okay.
She's known as the pink killer or the pink assassin or whatever it is because she wears a full pink getup. And so, which is also just like, I don't understand that particular part because as much as there's a lot of like tactical nous in the game, at least portrayed in the series, they're out in the open, in the wild, and you're wearing full-blown pink. Like, how the fuck are you going to camouflage yourself?
No, but that's the point, right? To me,
Yeah.
That's the easiest. It's like, despite this disadvantage, you are still this overpowered, highly skilled individual. It's like,
and the fact that like when people see a flash of pink, you know your life's in danger.
it's like in fighting games, we gave you all the handicaps, we gave you all the disadvantages, and you still prevailed, right? So I guess like that to me is like, at least I get it.
Yeah, I just think that like after 12 episodes, yeah, there were definitely moments of entertainment, but even the main villain, right? Okay, her issue here is that she was an SAO survivor, but when she started playing the game more and more, and she realized actually I really love these life and death situations. I play this game not to be good, but to make sure that I don't die. And if I die, that'll be the sweet release I've been looking for. But then when she does die in the game, turns out, hey, they fixed all the patches, all the security breaches. You don't die playing SAO anymore. And then she goes wayward in life. She's dark and depressed. She doesn't seem to have much guidance in terms of like where she wants to go in life anymore until she comes across GGO and plays this game, but finds that, you know what, it's the same thing. I'm really good at this game, but it doesn't give me that sense of urgency. It doesn't give me that dilemma of I have to be good or I die.
Well, please, for the love of God, tell me that this villainous, her logic is, I'm gonna fuck up everything such that I can allow the rule of if you die in real life rule be reintegrated back into games. Please do not tell me that.
No. It's worse than that.
What is it?
She basically plays another BOB, like a bullet of bullets or whatever it's called in GGO, right? If she wins, she commits suicide. Or I think if it's or if someone kills her in the game, then she commits suicide. Basically, the end point is that she commits suicide, and so there is that divide in terms of like now this is no longer the main thing. You're no longer watching people trying to win in this game. It goes back into the oh shit, there are real life implications as to what the fuck's going on. Just like in the end of like the Gunga Online arc of season 2, where there is Shinon who's playing and still connected, but there's also a massive like creepy stalker that's waiting outside ready to kill her. In this sense, she is her own creepy stalker. And the side character who ends up teaming up with Karen, the little pink stalker, the little pink assassin, is madly in love with this woman. So yeah. Oh, and get this. There is an idol in the series that loves to tour and sing and make music. Yeah, no, that's the main villain. She got so detached from life that nothing brings her joy anymore. The only thing that can make her happy is if she dies playing a game. But luckily, the heroes of the GGO world decide, no, you know what? There's more to life than just playing video games. Things are going to be okay. She turns a new leaf, gets back to her touring schedule, but continues playing GGO with her best friends. And that's how GGO ends. So then when you asked me if I was surprised if there was a second season of GGO, I am fucking massively surprised because what else is there to talk about in GGO? There's nothing else here anymore. I don't hate it. At the end of the day, I will still give this series a 7 out of 10. Basically, the tactics are done quite well. I think that there are a lot of moments that are very enjoyable in GGO. I just think that the plot and the characters are some of the weakest things. And dude, we watched the fucking Alfheim online arc of Sword Art Online. Okay. Would I recommend people veer off the SAO train and go watch some GGO? Hey, look, if you've watched everything in SAO and still want more SAO related content, sure. Absolutely go ahead and watch it. But just be prepared to be mildly disappointed because I just felt that there wasn't a whole lot for you to attach yourself to loving the plot, the characters being significant in the long run, which makes me question what they're going to cover in part 2 or season 2. I mean, so yeah, that's my thought. Those are my thoughts on Gun Gale Online. I know you're still reeling from the realization that this possibly couldn't get worse, right? No.
Yeah. All right. Pause for, I guess, ordinal scale, right?
No, we'll do progressive first.
Okay. Shit sandwich, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Now, this is where things take a massive turn in the good direction of SAO. Sword Art Online progressive, Aria of the Starless Night was a good movie. I thought it was very much a smart decision for them to, because I think basically like a lot of the criticisms that people had, not just for the anime and the manga, in the adaptations of the manga, but directly at the light novel, people felt that the writer of SAO was just not very good at writing because of the fact that things were kind of like misaligned, a lot of time skips, because what you saw in SAO in the first season was very much how it played out in the light novel.
And to be fair, which we did talk about, was it's not due to there wasn't content, was due to the word count of the Naru platform
and the time limit that they had
and the time limit, right? So it's one of those where it's like, as a game developer, for example, you had all this stuff planned in waiting, but you can't, for example, release it all at once, but you know that it's like a semi-broken product or something, or there's like this obvious gap. It's like the creator knew that this was going to happen.
It's like you ask a chef to make you a full meal, but you only give them half the ingredients and half the time to do it. Well, it's going to be half the experience. And so therefore, when Progressive came out, mind you, it came out as a light novel first because now that there was more time and there was no word count limit, the writer decided, you know what? I skipped a bunch of shit. Here are all the missing levels of Aincrad for Sword Art Online, and it was a necessary move because there are two things. One, it allowed for you to see what else was going on behind the scenes whilst when Kirito was just moping around being OP, but also being edgy. But 2, it made Asuna so much more likable. And I didn't not like her in the beginning. I thought she was a good character.
Right.
It's just the fact that they done her dirty through season 1 and season 2.
So I think, judging from what at least I know, not even of the plot details, because I didn't even know the plot details of Progressive, any of the movies or trilogies or anything, but do they talk about her ascension within the ranks of like the Paladin squad that she was a part of in season 1?
In the first movie, no, not yet.
Oh, okay.
They actually cover quite a lot. So you remember in Sword Art Online season 1 where that Paladin guy, goes
who turns out to be
no, not that far, not that far. When they do the first battle where the fucking Paladin goes in, turns out, oh wait, that's not the weapon they were supposed to use. Gets blasted, is about to die. Kirito offers him the potion.
He's like,
drink
nah,
it.
fuck it, because of
please save. Everyone's like, just drink the fucking potion.
Not the poison, right?
That's where it was.
Okay,
that's where it basically battles up to, which is good because in terms of a pacing level, you actually get to see progression. You actually get to see characters level up. I mean, you get to see Kirito before he becomes the mopey edgelord that is the solo player.
I mean, that just sounds like, hey, again, I'm going to use World of Warcraft terms. Instead of getting a boost from level 0 to 60 and you see, just that, this is the journey. This, as you said, obviously, SAO, progression, it clearly is about the journey in this case, right? To fill in the blanks in between, right? And
you're also introduced to a new character named Misumi, who is also super OP. But her issue is that when she was growing up, she was super good at games, and her friends weren't. So her friends abandoned her. Basically, oh, look, they released this new patch for the game. I can't wait to play with you guys. Oh, but you're always the sole survivor. We're not good at this game. Please don't talk to us again. And then they run away.
That's
like a flashback, by the way.
Isn't that like what's that Netflix show that you like a lot about the girl who plays Street Fighter? Shit.
Oh, High Score Girl.
Yeah. Isn't that essentially High Score Girl?
Yeah.
Because or actually a lot of these types.
And guess what? They both have purple hair. She is basically the main character from High Score Girl, grown up.
Progressive, right? Movie 1. Hold on, I need to take a look at this character.
Her avatar is Mito.
Okay, keep talking while I look this up.
So what's great about this is the fact that you do see more characters. You do see you basically see a lot more of the mental debilitating effects of SAO and its life-death situation weigh in on Asuna, because it becomes way more high stakes. For Kirito, he just didn't give a shit in season 1. He's just like, I got nothing else to do. I'm just going to fucking play this game, and if I die, I die. But Asuna, no. For her, she just, like, unbeknownst to her, just puts on the nerve gear because her brother managed to pre-order a game and plays it, and then does a little bit of a trial. And when she's ready, oh, I'm done. I've tried this game. I'll play with Mito, because they're both classmates, by the way. And then afterwards, oh, I can't log out. And thus begins the dark descent of her mind for Asuna. Now, this movie gets a double thumbs up in terms of animation, but mostly because it only came out 2 years ago. So it looks fucking gorgeous.
Yeah, I mean, that still
really,
counts.
really good. And the fact, okay, it's A1 Pictures. It still looks great. There's nothing to contest there. I think that this is a very much necessary addition and a must-watch for anybody that even gives an inkling of a fuck about SAO.
Oh, shit. So I need to watch it. I think there's like a trilogy of movies announced.
Shutsu of the Deep Night is coming up next.
I forgot what the third one is called, but it's going to be like a Heaven's Feel in terms of a trilogy of movies. Yeah. So I
think it's definitely an important entry in SAO.
How long is the runtime?
1.5 hours.
Okay, so 90.
It's not super long. I think it's like 1 hour 37. Like if you include the credits and all that. So yeah.
Wow, on the dot. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a very 97. It's a very good movie.
Okay. I'm waiting for the score.
I say very good because there were a lot of things that I was just kind of like, this same old, just because
Is SAO being SAO?
yeah, it's SAO. Why are we doing this?
I don't know.
We're still stuck in Italy. Yeah, I think
That moment's golden,
the main saving grace in terms of it being, because I was originally going to give this a 7 because whilst I thought it was good, I also felt that it's just SAO, right? It's just
So
the
it's
same
the same
thing.
as GGO.
Yeah.
Shit.
But what they did do at the end was just make Asuna so fucking badass, because in the SAO series, when they were fighting that monster, that boss at level 1, when the guy dies from not drinking the potion, Kirito shouts switch first. This time round, she shouts switch first.
Bro.
And her level up is fuck. It's just great watching this because you actually get to see her get good.
Right. Because here's the thing, right? It is almost like a mainstay in terms of the trench coat lone wolf archetype, mainly popularized by Sword Art Online Kirito, right? And Asuna is very
I would say Matrix,
from an anime
popularized.
front.
Yeah.
From an
Yeah,
anime
yeah.
front, okay? Emo kid.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
He's not the one, but he is that one person that made it.
The solo player.
Yeah. Exactly. So, and also
the beater. Just what they call it, because he was a beta tester. He's the beater. That's the derogatory.
that's not that's I don't know about that. Will we might have to listen.
that,
We
just
don't
bleep it.
we don't want to get demonetized or whatever or anything.
One thing that you also do as well is that they keep it consistent too. So in the end, it's still Kirito being badass, but Asuna, oof.
No, because if I remember in season 1, Asuna is supposed to be like essentially second in command of this clan.
Yeah.
And
And you
like-
probably will see that in the next movie.
And like she is supposed to be like this fucking crazy ass player that has just like everyone's adoration, admiration, just everything. So then to have it be kind of in the shadows of Kirito is kind of like, well,
Yeah.
shit. So but this actually is like her time to shine.
Because what happens is in the movie, she basically has a near death experience.
Oh, I see.
Right? Because they're training, her and Mito, her friend, but her friend Mito sees a rare creature that is known to only do rare drops.
Oh, for fuck's sake.
And rather than protecting her friend, which she said she would in the beginning, decides, I want that rare drop. I'm going to go for that monster. Comes back, Asuna's about to die. But shit, like, my friends abandoned me because they weren't good at games. I guess I'm going to abandon her too. So she leaves party and runs.
No. What?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yo.
And Asuna is left to die because Big Wild Beast shows up, about to chomp down
So
on her.
Mito is actually a villain in a way.
No, there actually is no villain in this.
No, but you know what I mean.
In the
right?
sense that she is like the opposing force. But she starts out great. She's like, she's super powerful, but she also sees her friends in danger, and she decides, oh, but the stakes are high this time. I'm actually going to die. I guess I'll leave her to die. But she's also very, very sorry about that.
Well-
Kirito comes in and saves Asuna, by the way.
And she's forgiven.
Yes. Because she moves past this, and then she basically, when they meet at that stage when they're fighting that level 1 boss, Mito's like, I'm so, and she starts crying, and then Asuna just waltzes in, puts her hand on her shoulder. Let's finish this game together.
It's all ogre now.
Yeah. And then stabs her. No. But
Dude,
yeah.
that would have been dope. Fucking crazy.
So would I recommend this? Absolutely. I would recommend Progressive, the first movie. I'm not repeating the same fucking name again. It's just a mouthful.
Is it 8 out of 10 then?
8 out of 10. 8 out of 10. It was definitely like a 7 at a point, but then when you just see Asuna just power up, because for her, she's just like, well, this is my life now. This is what my life's going to be, and if I don't do it, then I might as well just be dead. So I might as well have fun whilst I die. And that's when she becomes badass Asuna. Badass Asuna.
Having played a lot of like Souls-like games in my lifetime, and knowing that there is no quote-unquote permanent like life consequences in terms of death in my real life, don't get greedy. don't hold on to just all your souls. If you see a
Yeah.
rare loot or a rare monster or a glowing lizard, don't go after it. It's not worth it, okay? You will die. You will lose everything. You will become a bad guy.
Yeah. Don't just waltz into hardcore mode thinking you're going to hardcore this shit, because that is going to hardcore you.
Hey, let me ask you this. Are there, footages of hardcore Diablo 4 and WoW players?
Have you seen, like, there were people that were playing Elden Ring, but playing Elden Ring using, like, a potato and, like, doing, like, a no-hit run?
Oh, no, I've seen that. Yeah, I've seen no-hit runs.
Yeah, yeah. You're never going to be that level.
Yeah, don't. No. You're not, like, you think you are, but you're not.
No. Just
Get
be
it? That's a WoW reference.
Just be realistic with your expectations.
You think you want it,
yeah.
but you don't.
I want to play WoW again. I don't.
You don't have phones? You don't have phones?
Yeah,
Okay, anyways.
because I got just enough time now to talk about Sword Art Online Ordinal Scale Begin Pause Now.
So, if you're just joining us, we are now in the spoiler section of the last thing that we will cover, SAO related.
Ordinal Scale was a clusterfuck. Now, you watched it
Yeah, I did.
in
I did.
cinemas. I just watched it at home.
Holy fucking bullshit.
Now,
Okay.
my perspective on this might not be as harsh as yours, but there were definitely a lot of things I did not like about Ordinal Scale. Now, first of all, released in 2017, so it still looks really good, but I did find that some of the animation was a little bit janky, especially when it came to, like, static character movements. Like, when one of the characters was just walking towards a desk and then they turned around, but then, like, somehow, like, the frame rates kind of stuttered and the guy just, like, lagged into the desk. It was really weird. Now, what does the whole story revolve around? Well, Ogma is now the new greatest hit. People are loving this game.
And that is augmented reality, which is very different than wearing, like,
So
VR.
you put on these goggles, you go out in the streets of Tokyo, and you play Ogma. Which,
Yeah, because
first of
Pokemon Go did great,
Yeah,
right?
it
In
was-
terms of public chaos and stuff, right?
Which is funny you say that, because Pokemon Go released a year before this movie did. So AR was the craze then. So
No, no.
that's
No. It was 2008 Deno Coil that started it, okay?
I thought Deno Coil was 2006. 2006 Deno Coil.
2000s, all right? I was just pulling 2008
Deno Coil was
out of my
dope. I
butt.
love Deno Coil.
Yeah, I think, yeah.
Yeah. So with Ordinal Scale, first of all, Ogma the game played out on the streets of Tokyo. How did not one single kid get hit by a fucking car whilst they were playing it? Because there were a load of kids that got
Because
hit.
it's not an isekai genre, okay?
Yeah. I
Well,
suppose.
technically, it's not anymore because it's augmented reality. It's not
Yeah.
transport, right?
But then that's where it's like, oh, it's like even the synopsis is like, oh, it's just a game, right? It's all, free of bugs.
Hey,
when
when you die in this game, you don't die in real life, apparently.
Yeah. But, and then in the synopsis, oh, Kirito and his band of merry friends soon find out this is more than just a game. It's okay, fine. Typical trope shit, right?
Okay. So the movie is 120 minutes.
Yeah, 2 hours long, yeah.
The beginning and the end, if you would have kept maybe 10 minutes of each, it would have been better.
One episode, yeah. So the things I liked about it, there was one thing that I really liked, but they did it way too often, was when they destroyed a boss when they were doing a raid, and they had that big cyber rainbow.
Oh, God.
That looked really cool. However, that was the only thing that looked really cool. And they did it so many times that by the time they did it for the 10th time, I just didn't really give a fuck about it anymore.
The whole middle chunk, or like the whole 80%, if you exclude the tail ends, was very useless. Then all of a sudden Kirito is doing Kirito shit. Then all of a sudden ascends. Okay, I get that.
To
but
be fair, I thought the plot was good. I like the fact that they basically revolved it around a grieving father whose daughter died in SAO season 1, like who died in Aincrad, and he was basically creating a new game to be able to refragment her memories from all the survivors of SAO and creates a new AI that he can then basically quote unquote bring his daughter back to life. I thought that was actually a very good plot. How they carried that plot, though, was boring as shit. All the characters are still kind of useless. Klein gets a little more screen time, but he's still a punk ass bitch who gets his arm broken halfway through the movie. And the whole like memory loss thing was like, I thought that they could have played it more like deep. It could have been a lot more heavy on the characters, but it was just like the main thing was, oh, like as if I lose my memories, I will lose my love for you, right? No, don't worry, Kirito. I will never stop loving you. I will always love you. And thus we get to see Asuna being a damsel in distress all over again. Yeah, she does, decide to, pull up her, her big girl pants and enter the world and start fighting again. But okay, sure, whatever, right? Ogma just sucks. I don't like the whole Ogma world.
Okay, thank God you said that because I'm about to tell you a story. Okay, I watched this in I watched this in Melbourne. Yeah, and I watched it at I think one of either the Melbourne Film Fest, like some sort of like thing. I watched it with a lady friend at that time. Okay, and the reason why this is pertinent is because we didn't talk to each other after that movie screening, and
Wow, you guys broke up on the spot.
And the reason is because, Will,
you guys didn't break up, right? No.
Well, we didn't see each other anymore, I guess.
Okay.
So why is Sword Art Online Ordinal Scale called Ordinal Scale? Why is that, Will? No. Tell me, please. Why is it? No, go ahead.
It's all about math, dude.
Okay. Why? What? It's a scale, right? So why does what math? Why?
Something about numbers, and when you line them all up together, they're supposed to create a code that allows for you to achieve the ultimate ascension of technology and therefore take over the world.
Because it uses ordinal numbers, right? It's a rank, right? So they have a game called Ordinal Scale. Nothing wrong with that, right? It makes sense. And having rankings or leaderboards, right? Nothing is wrong with that.
Nothing's new. Yeah.
Nothing is new. That's the problem when it is advertised that this is the groundbreaking technology. And okay, I think it's like you eliminate another player, then you essentially absorb their rank, right?
Yeah.
Or like their XP, right?
Yeah.
So, but here's the thing, Will, that is not revolutionary. That is almost the basis for every single competitive game with leaderboards since the dawn of time. And this lady friend was like, I thought that part was really cool. And I just kind of like lost it for a sec. But even then I was like, okay, Jason, maybe you're just overreacting. And I was. But here's the other thing. This is someone that would call herself very in tune with a lot of things that we like a lot, Will.
Yeah. Games, anime,
Yeah.
comics.
I mean, she was willing to go to a film festival with me to watch Ordinal Scale. Kind of shows, right? She thought it was very groundbreaking. She was wowed by the visuals as well, which, to be fair, I think was pretty good, to be fair. And the fight scene at the end, she actually did not like that part.
I do want to talk about that, actually.
Okay. So, but like, I just lost it. Like, yeah, you can kind of understand like why I kind of like lost my shit. Okay, anyways.
The whole chunk of it revolves around this Ogma bullshit, and I was just like, nah, this is not cool at all. I mean, even in the beginning, right, they started like talking, they have like this little sort of like news conference talking about like, oh, because of the uprise in players in Ogma, there have been less there have been fewer players in the worlds of Aincrad and GGO.
Wasn't there a scene where the girls were at a shopping mall or something?
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't remember because it was not memorable.
Okay, anyways. Okay, so the finale climactic battle scene where kind of everyone shows up to gang up.
To explain, the AI of this game, Yuna, decides, I need you to end this. I have a secret ability in this game. I can allow you to deep dive whilst playing Ogma because I am the AI. I am the game. So they deep dive and fight against the level 100 boss in Aincrad because they never did that in the original series.
Hey, but I'm good at singing, right?
Well, it's not even just that. First of all, I thought the music sucked, but
Far cry from crying
you're
feels
you're
Lisa.
you're okay, fine, yeah, but I mean, I was like the whole the music was cool. I just didn't like the fact that whenever there was a fucking raid, that Yuna would just sing throughout. I thought that was annoying as fuck. But what was also really egregious was that you are supposed to make this like a grand finale for all the SAO players in terms of getting the main gang put together to fight against the level 100 boss, and you're getting your ass handed to you, and all of a sudden the AI is like, well, I guess you know what? Why don't we bring the heroes of Alpha Online over here? Or why don't we bring GGO? So now you have like, first Shinon with her arrow was cool, and all of a sudden she has a fucking sniper rifle in her hands, and she's just shooting this mythical beast from Aincrad, and you have people flying and doing like anti-magic casting and whatnot. It's just like basically silencing her while she was trying to heal, and then you have more people shooting guns and throwing grenades and whatnot. It's just like, what the fuck is this? Is not Super Smash Brothers. What the fuck is this? That was, I thought, the most egregious thing
Really?
in all of Ordinal Scale.
I thought like that part was okay.
Oh, okay, fine, fair. No, it looked cool, but like if you actually you pull behind the layers of the onion, you didn't get I was just so fucking angry.
In all of these instances that I've mentioned this climactic battle scene, I don't think I said anything about it making sense. I just said it either is good or looks good or is cool. Never mentioned like it makes sense, because it doesn't. But you have to understand, Will, that in this mindset of me, pre-Ordinal Scale explanation meltdown was I need something from this movie because it's almost been 2 hours where I felt like it was worth it. I craft that to this day, that's almost all I remember.
I don't hate the movie, first of all. I don't hate it. I liked certain parts of it, but would I recommend people watch it? Probably not.
I'm pretty sure I gave it either a 6 or a 5 out of 10.
This is SAO, the trope movie, because they have the trope of bandwagoning on AR. They have the trope of characters all of a sudden just meshing in from. It became like a Digimon kind of thing where all of a sudden like portals opened and characters start showing up, and then they have the audacity to pull an Avengers on you with a post-credit scene showcasing new technology they're going to utilize, and then black screen. Sword Art Online will return.
Yeah,
And then that's why it is canon, because it leads into the events of Alicization.
Yeah, I saw that.
I fucking hated that. Come on, man. It just seems like such a cop-out. Look,
Okay.
I'm definitely very, like, passionately hateful about the things I didn't like, but, like, that's kind of giving me the platform to say it, right? Like, you don't like certain things about JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, you're going to go lay into it. But you also recognize the fact that there are a lot of good things about JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. And for me, I also recognize that there's going to be people that very much enjoy watching Ordinal Scale. For some, it's going to be revolutionary. For others, it's just going to be like, well, this is kind of like done and dusted. People already know about this shit. This is not anything new. But hey, whatever. I'm not going to, pour judgment on you. At the end of the day, I still gave this a 7. I don't think I would go lower than that because there were, visually brilliant parts. I thought that the sound design was okay. When I said I didn't like the music, I just didn't like it when Yuna was singing whilst they were doing the raids. That's the only thing I didn't like about the music.
Yo.
I think the plot is just garbage, though. It's written well. It's just delivered like a pile of garbage.
Okay. So I gave this a 5 out of 10.
Yeah.
And okay, granted, it is
Did you
heavily
Did you rate it
biased.
right after you finished watching the movie?
So that's what I was checking. March 18th, 20. I literally rated it a month after it premiered, which meant that it was actually on the day, almost a month into. It was basically at the film festival right after.
Yeah. So you were seething with rage at that point.
Yeah. So okay, 5 out of 10. That is not fair, in my opinion. I'm not
Calm,
gonna,
collected. You probably give it a 6, maybe
yes,
a 7.
exactly. I'll give it a 6. Okay, add +1, big deal. It kind of is. But okay, it is also the 5 is personal bias. Oh, then change it, Jason. No, but that's like personal thing, right? But man, that movie, despite it looking like eye candy, I think I described it to a friend as like, it's sweet, but you die from diabetes right after. You need insulin.
The movie could have been so much more, right? The plot itself is a very good plot. It just wasn't delivered.
And honestly, again, I don't remember about the singing stuff other than Yuna being the idol, AI idol that they advertised throughout the whole film.
Yeah.
I still think the production is like an 8 out of 10.
Oh yeah, for sure. It looks fantastic. It sounds fantastic.
They grabbed the same voice cast, everything about it. And if you're into the world of SAO, this is kind of like a thing that you never encountered because it's anime original content that's also canon and approved by the creator. So it's a big deal.
But despite it being canon approved by the creator, I would not say it is a necessary watch.
I would say it's almost the most. It's the mandatory. Don't watch it.
Yeah,
I would say
it's the most annoying side quest that you put off until like way after you finish the main game. You do not need to watch.
If
this.
you want to 100% achievement, then sure, but leave this to the last. Okay, consume everything else
because it doesn't really provide anything groundbreaking, right? Like they legitimately spend like 80% of the movie trying to build up this world of Ogma, but then they just end it by introducing everybody from Alpha Online, from fucking Aincrad, and from Sword Art Online Aincrad, and also from Gun Gale Online. That's basically it. You know, it was just not great, but I still was entertained. Right, I'll give him that. So that's it. I think that's like my final thoughts on Ordinal Scale. It was a good watch from a theatrical perspective, but from a plot perspective, wow, what a dumpster fire that was.
So on the scale, how does this rank again?
On an Ordinal level.
Okay, got it. I mean, generally a lot of scales are on an Ordinal level, not just a cardinal.
Somewhere along there.
Okay, perfect. So this will then be the end of our Gotta Watch Them All 8. And you can always reach us, Will, not just through listening to our podcast, but also through our email, gapalette@gmail.com. GAPALETTE, all lowercase, all one word. Can I say Twitter anymore? Should I have to say X?
Just say Twitter.
Using the X Twitter, using the handle @PaletteGood. That's capital P and capital G, all one word. We're also on Threads, guys, believe it or not, because we have an IG account technically. We're going to try to do something with that, but our Threads is, I think, @GoodAnimePalette, all lowercase, all one word. Our website with everything available, all for your consumption, is available at www.goodanimepalette.com, all lowercase, all one word. Music credits for this episode. Our intro music is Never or Right Now by ELFL. Our break music is Not Gonna Wake Up, the instrumental version by Mindme. And our outro music is Like the Ocean by The Big Letdown. You can support the music artists that we feature by listening to them on Spotify, Apple Music, or other various music listening platforms. And the royalty-free music was provided by Epidemic Sound. If you're interested, we will have a referral link that is in the show description. Terms and conditions apply.
this was probably the most enjoyable experience I've had watching SAO, and that's not saying a whole lot, to be fair.
Shit.
Simply because the fact that like
Shit.
it's the opposite of your spiel on Jojo, where you're like nitpicky and a little downtrodden about the first half, but then really gung-ho about the second half. I really like the first half of Sword Art Online Season 1 and Season 2, but then severely disappointed by how it ends. With this, I thought Gung Online was okay, and I thought that Progressive was fantastic, but then I was very much let down by watching Ordinal Scale. And I have a feeling that that's probably going to end, because with the way that people have been rating Alicization and the War of the Underworld, or whatever it's called, and beyond, I think I'm about to turn a new leaf and start watching some good SAO.
Yeah, I really do think the dark second act is over in terms of the whole SAO IP. Not only in terms of what someone who has watched Alicization has personally told me, a friend of mine, also just by my anime list or just general like forum reception and everything, has made me realize that everything beyond this point should be great, or should be good.
Yeah, minimum.
At minimum, it will be a worthy like reprieve from all this.
Yeah.
That's why I wanted this before Alicization, essentially.
Yeah. So where do we go from here? Well, Golden Wind is still good, but Final Judgment to be reserved for Gotta Watch Them All 9. Gunga Online is okay. Progressive, the first movie, is pretty dope. Ordinal Scale sucks, but it's still a decent watch if you need to, be 100% completionist. So yeah, sit tight, because we will be going over the rest of JoJo Part 5, and then maybe doing a little bit of a recap on how everything has gone so far.
Yeah, or mix in Stone Ocean. We haven't fully decided yet, but
and then I'll also be going into what I hope to be the good parts, Alicization for Sword Art Online.
And that's it, guys. Catch you later. And I think our next episode would probably be ASAP, right?
ASAP 3. That one's one you should look forward to,
Dude,
because some of the series we're going to talk about,
dope.
And just as a kind of spoiler, the stuff we're talking about, for the most part, will be releasing in the following anime season. And if not, then the season after. So,
with one being unknown. But I think all of these, we're trying to keep ASAP, the adaptation, to have it be released relatively soon.
Within like a 2-season time frame.
Yeah. So then that way you can read it and or anticipate it. That's it.
Yeah.
So I think that's it for me, Will.
That's
anything from you?
I gotta go pee. That's about it.
We gotta order food, dude.
Yep. So yeah, enjoy the rest of your weekend, and or whenever you listen to this, enjoy the rest of your day. Bye.
Peace.